Welcome to City Council meeting, everybody. We appreciate you being here. Hi, Paul. How are you? We will begin today. We'll begin today with an invocation. We have Elder Jim Hetrick from the Community of Christ, who is here with us, representing his congregation and also the Interfaith Council. So Elder Hetrick, if you would, and then after that we'll have Troop 1810 will come up and they will lead us under the direction of Marcus Bacon in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for inviting us again. Council members, ladies and gentlemen, would you bow with me for a prayer? Heavenly Father, we have come to understand that we live in a blessed community. And it's blessed, Father, because we live in your grace. And it's blessed, Father, because you have assembled here people who care for one another. People who think about the future of their community, the future of themselves, and their families. We're blessed because we know that in caring for one another, that we make good decisions. And that goes with also for elections and finding dedicated people to lead us. So as they go forth in this meeting, Father, we pray that there might be peace, there might be accord, there might be reason and wisdom as the decisions will be made today. And we ask that your Spirit lead this assembled group in those ways and in the means of coming to good conclusions and good decisions. Bless everyone here, Father. Bless council, first responders, all those who provide for the good of the community. And Father, we pray in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate it. Elder Hetrick has been here a number of times. Appreciate what you do in the community, and please send our best wishes back to your faith group. Okay. Marcus, you want to bring your troop forward and tell us what we need to do? Just kind of come right here by that microphone and you speak into it and the other guys just stand by you. Why don't you face us? Yep, just how you are.
Will the audience please arise?
Thank you. Now stay here for a minute, Marcus. Yeah, and all of you. So, will you introduce, first of all, your two cousins from Connecticut? They came all the way from Connecticut to be to our city council meeting. Isn't that cool? I talked to them beforehand, and they said absolutely. So, anyway, Marcus, why don't you introduce your cousins or let them introduce themselves, and then if the rest of you would introduce yourselves and tell us what you're working on, maybe what rank you are in scouting, if you remember.
This is Joey and this is Thomas. They're here from Connecticut visiting.
Just get just a little closer to the mic, okay, buddy?
This is Joey and this is Thomas visiting me from Connecticut. I'm first class and we're working for citizenship in the community.
Perfect. Thank you. So, how about your cousins? Go ahead. Just tell us what you're working on. Are you scouts in Connecticut? Vacation is what you're working on. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, very good. Anything you guys want to say? Just glad to be here? Okay, very good. We'll give our best to your family in Connecticut. Glad to have you here. Okay, next, young man. You look like the Monson boy.
Mr. Monson.
Yes.
My name is Jordan Monson, and I'm working on citizenship in the community.
Very good. And what rank are you? Do you know? First class?
Second class.
Second class? Okay. Excellent. They're not. Yeah, speak pretty loud into that mic, okay?
I'm Kason Bell, and I'm first class, and I'm also working on citizenship in the community.
Very good. And your dad is Matt Bell?
Yep.
Yep. We know your dad.
I'm Hans Ritter, and I'm working on citizenship in the community.
Excellent. Did we get you all? I think we did. Okay, wait a minute. So, well, I think that's what we should do. Paul, that's exactly right. So, do you guys know the Scout law? So, I'll help you a little bit. So, this is the long one, right? A Scout is trustworthy. Say loud. Cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, reverent. What else? Isn't there one more? Hungry. Hungry.
Are they supposed to go like this?
Yeah, they should, huh? But you did very well. Thank you. You can sit down, stay as long as you want, leave when you need to. Okay, now let's see. I believe, by the way, that Councilman Hughes will be here. I didn't hear anything different, so we'll proceed. We've got a couple of other things to do first. Councilwoman Michelle Randall, I'd like to turn the time to you for some certificates of appreciation. Will you tee that up?
I'll tee it up. So I have the privilege of serving on the Veterans Advisory Board, and we have a few members of our board here today. I'm going to have them come forward and introduce themselves, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
All three of you. The rest are on vacation. Pam Palermo chairs our board. She is stuck in Jacobs Lake because I guess it's storming like cats and dogs. Be nice to be there right now.
Yeah.
Pull the mic up, tell them who you are, what we're doing.
I'm Court Pendleton. I'm with the State of Utah's Department of Veterans and Military Affairs, and I work with Carl Downing and Aaron Henry, and also Pam Palermo, Steve Duke, and Dave Waters. We're all members of the Mayor's Advisory Council, Mayor's Advisory Board. And we were asked to come here today to present a few of our businesses, our local businesses, who have set themselves apart as being very veteran-friendly, and it's helped this community help our veterans in very many ways. And do we just want me to call them all up?
Are you done with this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Just call
okay.
call them up, and Mayor.
And
Well, yeah.
Painters? Who's here from Painters today?
I don't know if we've had
Okay. Okay. Camping World? Right here. Spilsbury? Spilsbury Mortuary? And Smith's King.
So, Court, tell us a little bit about what these groups have done for veterans.
Well, they were nominated by different members of our board. As far as I know that Smith's just barely did a huge hiring drive, and we were able to. I had a veteran come in my office looking for work, and 43 minutes later, I was called by him, and he had gotten an interview and was able to come on. And I thought that was amazing. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Pillsbury Mortuary. This is just for myself. I see this business and go over and above daily, helping our veterans, coordinating with several service organizations, giving our veterans their final honors, and helping these families. We, all of us on this board, have been able to lean on them and coordinate with them several times to make events happen for veterans, and I want to say thank you.
The next business is Camping World, and they've come into my office. I work at the Department of Workforce Services for the state of Utah. They're a very veteran-friendly hiring organization. We can often have veterans go through a process that might be a little more friendly for them considering the circumstances at times and be a little easier to get interviewed and be employed. We're very appreciative of the work that they do and the veterans that they hire in our community. They make a tremendous impact.
Well, again, we appreciate, for one, we appreciate the Veterans Advisory Council and all that we do to support our veterans and coordinate with the different veterans organizations. And so thank you for being here. And we can't do it without your support, the different companies and groups in the community that really just do an amazing job. So thank you to each one of you. Appreciate what you do, and probably, as I think Carl and Aaron and Court would agree, in a few words, we can't really say everything that we would like to, but we appreciate it, all you do. So thanks very much. Okay. All right, we will start our agenda on the first Thursday of the month. We have comments from the public. Just a review of this, we allot 15 minutes for this on the first Thursday, and there are a couple of rules. Well, there are 4 rules that are on these forms that have been filled out. I've got 6 that have been submitted. So first, you must be a resident of the city of St. George. Second, each speaker will be given, it says on here, approximately 3 minutes. It'll be a little less than that today because there are 6 that would like to speak, so you'll be given 2 minutes. And then we will certainly live by this, as well as we would ask the audience to be courteous and show respect. And then comments can't be related to pending issues on the agenda or likely to be on a future agenda. I've looked at these. I don't see that there's a problem with the ones that have been submitted. So what we'll do, and I see that there are 5 that have been submitted on the topic of community garden. Again, you are all welcome to speak, but we'll time you. You really only have 2 minutes each. Or if you want to have just a couple people speak to it and take a little longer each, you're free to do that. So however you would like to do it, we can proceed, but I have 5 that have been submitted and then one other gentleman on another topic. So I think what I'd like to do is start with Mark Richards, who is here. His topic is Desert Plateau, and then I'll give the rest of you a chance on the community gardens to talk about if you want to have a couple of you or if you want to all 5 speak, and either way is fine with me. Mr. Richards, Dr. Richards.
Mr. Mayor, you know quite well why I'm here.
I do.
It's to go on the record.
Thank you for your emails.
I have been in St. George 153 days today. Tomorrow will mark 22 weeks that I took possession of my home. I went to closing on the 27th of February, which is 22 weeks and 3 days ago. I recognized that there was a distinct problem with subsidence of the contiguous 2 properties, the lots that are adjacent to mine. So an inordinate amount of my time during this past 22 weeks has been spent interfacing with the city of St. George, the developer, the builders, real estate brokers and agents, and with investigatory branches of the state government. And recently, 2 agencies of the state government have now become involved. Recently, I mean just 2 days ago, as well as the Office of the Governor. I have to do with constituent services and fraud investigation. I'm not here to state my case, and I'm not an attorney, but I am deeply concerned that written representations were made to me by the Director of Public Works for the city of St. George, and these were misrepresentations. The fact of the matter is that the city of St. George reviewed materials that I commissioned by a geotechnical engineer, agreed that remediation needed to occur, instructed, as I would think a municipality could and should, that the developer make such remediation. This hasn't been done. To the contrary, as a matter of fact, steps have been taken that make the remediation much more difficult. Something that I was pointing out to members of this august council as early as April when I contacted each and every member here, Mr. Hughes as well, although I see he's not here today. I urge you, as I did on the 4th of May when I first came before this august body, to do the right thing. You can still do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Richards. Cameron, do you want to respond just a little bit? And I know that there's been discussion, but I need the council to know what's been done. And you know, again, if there can be some continued offline discussions with Dr. Richards, that's certainly appropriate. But maybe if you can explain briefly what we've done so far.
Okay. The item in question is the slope in the back of Dr. Richards' home. The construction plans had the slope at 2 to 1.
So explain that's two
horizontal to one vertical.
And so
it's, I don't know what I can't remember what the degrees are, but 2 horizontal to 1 vertical slope, and that when it was built, based on first an observation letter by Rosenberg, who Dr. Richards had hired. They had some survey of 2 cross slopes, 2 cross sections in the back of his home, which showed
3 cross sections.
Okay, on the letter it showed 2, but it showed 3 slopes on there.
Okay.
3 numbers. So of these cross sections, one of them was a 1.5 to 1. That's a little bit steeper. And then on the other cross section, it had the one cross section was 1.33 to 1, and then the other cross section showed 1.5 to 1 on the upper portion, and then 1.17 to 1 steeper on the lower portion of that second cross section. And so with that observation letter, I had contacted the developer. I contacted and spoke with Dave Black, who did the observation letter. I also had a conversation with AGEC. I informed the developer that we needed to get some information from them on a recommendation of a slope, because per the IBC Appendix J or whatever, it talks about that you're not supposed to have any steeper slope than 2 to 1 unless you have a geotechnical recommendation for that slope. And so the developer provided us through AGEC their recommendation.
Those are geotechnical engineers.
Geotechnical engineers. They provided the city with a report on that and recommended a 1.5 to 1 slope based on their slope analysis. They also had discussions with them about the possibility of putting some retaining walls in, and there's some note in those reports. One of the lots behind Dr. Richards' home has 2 lots in back of him. The property owner, or the property line, splits his property from the 2 lots back behind him. And so one of those property owners has built a short retaining wall. It might be maybe 3 feet high. I'm not sure exactly the dimensions on it. He excavated out and then built the wall. It hasn't been backfilled yet. The developer, I contacted him in the interim after I got that report from AGEC to let the developer know that they are responsible for either changing the slope to meet their recommendations, AGEC's recommendations, or to build a wall or something to that effect that would change that per their recommendations. Once again, I've been in contact with the developer. I email him about weekly to find out an update, a status update on that. He is. I've let him know that they are to certify when it's done. They are to certify that they have done according to what their geotechnical engineer has recommended.
Okay. Okay, stay close, Cameron.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, the only reason that I sold and sold it to the very first person who walked in the door, a beautiful home on the East Bench, approximately 28 East, 15 South in Salt Lake City, and moved to your beautiful community, which I haven't really been able to enjoy much, is that my wife changed her job. She was the director of nursing at the VA Salt Lake City healthcare system. Her mother, 93, has Alzheimer's and had an incident last October. I sold the property, came here to be closer to Orange County, California, where she now is with her. With Alzheimer's, as many here know, one just doesn't know how long someone will last. So we've been apart now since last November, and I came here, it will be 2 weeks ago tomorrow that my mother-in-law had a major stroke. She was extubated yesterday and will likely pass away tonight. There is no other reason for me to remain in St. George, Utah, sir. I'm going home right now to list my property with Keller Williams. The property that has been devalued tremendously by this ongoing problem, and the fact that I can't put a fence in nor sell it. There is, for any of you who may be real estate brokers or agents, the concept of seller's disclosure associated with a real estate purchase contract in this state and in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where I'm from, and in every other state that I know of. Please do the right thing so I can leave your community as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you. Seems to me that from the report I read from Rosenberg that the retaining wall was one of the options that would resolve the problem in this case, acknowledging that, as Cameron said, there's some further wall that needs to be built by the other property owner or builder because of the fact that there's two, behind him. So I would think that when that's finished, we should be complying with what at least what the Rosenberg engineers said. And then, like you say, if the geotech concurs, I think we should be good. Is that fair to say, Cameron? Okay. And then I think, if there's some question about if I don't know that we have these things happen very often, but we can, by matter of policy, it doesn't need to be by ordinance, I don't believe, we can say that in cases where slope may be a question, we may seek for certification from the geotechnical engineers to make sure it's okay. And so, Council, I just wanted you to know that Cameron's been doing a lot of work on this, and our other staff members, and I appreciate it. And I think Dr. Richards will too.
And
so.
I think we've all gone above and beyond, and we've done our part, and there's that's all I will say.
Okay, thank
Mayor,
you.
I'd like to comment on the fact that upon my contact with Mr. Richards several months ago now, that I did listen to him, and I was able to compile a list of his concerns and made reference and referred him to Cameron and our Director of Public Works, and he immediately responded to that. I know that he has been working diligently to try to satisfy many of his concerns and interests. So for the public listening, it's not anything that's been passed off. It's something that's been fully addressed and continues to be, and not only by Cameron but by many others.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, so now let's move to the next topic. Do all five of you want to speak? Okay. Is that right? How many of you want to speak that have submitted a card? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you all submitted a form, right? Okay. So let's start with, let's see, I can't read this. Need my glasses. Is it Tabby, Toby? I can't read. Toby. Farden? And then Matthew Field, and then Dale Joel, and then Sylvia Atkin, and then Tana Oliver. You each have 2 minutes. And again, if there are issues that, you're dividing up so that you can sort of divide and conquer, that's great. Whatever you'd like to tell us.
I'm going to talk fast so that everybody will have a chance. I'm Toby Forden, and I'm here because I heard that the city is planning to pave over the community garden to extend the parking lot for the All Abilities Park. And I'm asking you to reconsider this. When I moved here a couple of years ago, I was impressed with the wide variety of recreational lands that you have set aside, many, many parks, a few fishing ponds, a baseball field, demonstration garden, and especially that you had a community garden. I don't have an area in my yard that I can plant a vegetable garden, so it was great to have an opportunity to grow fresh produce. And I was lucky enough that someone else who'd been on line to get a plot would share with me, and I could already go into a very well-developed plot of land where we've had organic materials for a number of years, and it would produce so well. Last year we had organic eggplant, squash, lettuce, and this year we've already harvested over 70 great tasting tomatoes along with other produce, and all of this we share with family and neighbors. With obesity, a major health problem in our community, not only should we keep this wonderful garden that volunteers have worked so hard to develop, but instead of another fast food place, let's become an example to other cities by having mini gardens throughout the community. And let's not start by doing away with one that's already well developed. Everyone I've ever talked to about community garden has been very interested in participating. Just as a side note, I've been at that garden many times, all during times of the day, on weekends, during the week, and I have rarely seen anybody looking for a parking place that couldn't find one. When it was first opened, it was pretty popular for a couple of weekends, but
Okay,
usually
time
there's
is
plenty
up,
of
so if you can
parking.
wrap it up.
Again, I ask you to reconsider and support this community garden.
Thank you. Okay. Mike just mentioned, please remember, and I think most of you know, we have a temporary parking location that is actually on cemetery property. Many people are parking there now, and that's what we need to reclaim. That was meant to be temporary, as was the garden. And that's where maybe people didn't understand enough, and that's on us as much as it is on the Water Conservancy District and anyone else that was maybe involved when we started up. This garden was never meant to be a permanent location. And so while we do believe we need to have this parking moved from the temporary location to where the community garden is, we will relocate the community garden. So we're not going to do away with the garden, we're going to add two. It's kind of what we're proposing. And that's what I mentioned to those that came and met with me last week, was Segmiller Park out in the Little Valley area, and we can talk a little bit more about it later, but the Grace Episcopal Church, which is right in the heart of St. George. City manager and our parks people met with them Tuesday and Wednesday, and really think that could be a great option and allow for many more people to participate. Kind of closed in where we are, we can't grow it, and where we need the parking desperately, and we need the cemetery plots desperately. Unfortunately, that represents 500 plots, more than 500, and we're selling about, is it 300 a year? Yeah, about 300 a year. So we will fill that cemetery within probably 5 years, including having that parcel. So anyway, those are some. We're under a lot of different pressure points, if you will, and we're trying to accommodate everyone we can, but including buying land for a new cemetery. But we're going to need that for the next 50 years. So anyway, let's go ahead. Matthew, I have you down as next.
Okay, so I got this written out. I'll be as fast as I can here.
It's Matthew Field.
Matthew Field.
Yeah.
So we are talking about the issue at hand is, and so I just wanted to jump into it. I don't have as much time as I thought I would. So essentially, we were blindsided by this whole announcement, and that was one of the problems that really spurred us onto this whole thing. And kind of the analogy I put together was, imagine the state of Utah deciding to plow down the city office with no collaboration with the city council or staff. It would be something that was unheard of. We called the city after we heard about this, to find out what we could do. And they said to try starting a petition. So my lovely wife pursued this angle and received about 650 signatures, or 7% of the total winning vote count of the last municipal election, against the city action of the people who live in St. George. When my wife attempted to offer her hard collaborated work to the city, she and others were told petitions don't matter. Yet another perplexing and inappreciative statement. I would go on, but let's assume that everything I said was, all of that is just doesn't matter. What are the pros of paving over the community garden? Yes, we'll have more parking for the park, and it will appease the constituency of those people that have been requesting it. But if I can quickly refute each of those, there are 17 handicap spots, 82 paved, and 60 gravel parking spots to bring a total of 159 spaces. A community garden member has kept a log since she learned of the city's decision. With 35 entries from June to August, the data indicates an average of 13 parking spaces in use, a mode of 12 parking spaces in use, and a max of 33 parking spaces at different given times. You could triple the max and still have enough paved parking. That's excluding the gravel portion. The second pro, to appease your constituency, my questions to that would be: Have you kept track on how many people?
Spend 2 minutes, Matthew. So wrap it up.
Essentially, I think there can be a lot more that's been done, and the benefits associated with the community garden are great. We have it's essentially the park for the adults, and there are several things that benefit that. If I had the time, I'd go into it. But one of the smaller ones is, one of the bigger ones is 14 pounds of produce are donated each year to the kitchen, and a parking lot wouldn't produce any pounds of produce.
Right. Thank you, Matthew. But again, we're not proposing to eliminate it. We're proposing to relocate it and give 2 sites.
Well, and that's the part that I'm trying to figure out here, and the last portion of it is we would love to see the data that supports the parking lot. Because as far as we can see, we're in the dark. We've been in the dark since the time it was announced. And so what we'd like to see is, do you have a log? Do you have people that have said, hey, I need more parking? Do you have a log of how many parking spaces are in use? That's what we're trying to understand, because as we see it right now, the action proposed by the city is just going to cost money, and it's going to upset people, and by the own admission of the city, the park attendance will go down. And so why not just wait a little bit longer to see what happens before any of this takes place? And so it's not so much that we don't appreciate the fact that you're going to include more options for the plot, it's that we don't understand and do not see the proof associated with the need of more parking.
Good. Thank you. We do have that, but people don't seem to be listening to it. So, but go ahead, and we'll move on to the next one.
I would love to see that.
Thank you. Thank you. Dale?
I'll wait. Okay.
Hello, Dale Joel is my name.
Thank you.
We moved here 2.5 years ago, and the garden has been a fabulous quality to our life. We live on the west side of town, and any relocation of that garden is going to we're probably 20 plus minutes from the garden now, which makes it on the outside of our being able to make it conveniently. I think the whole concept of changing a community garden to a parking lot is got to be a little bit politically difficult. The promise of other gardens with one that's intact, the investment has been made, and have the dollars really been looked at for what the dollars that have gone into that garden and the dollars that it would take to recreate that somewhere else. And once again, we spent a lot of time over there, and I really question that need for the parking other than maybe 5 weekends a year. Thank
Okay.
you for consideration.
Thank you.
I'm hoping that you will listen to what we're saying here today.
Thank you. And we will also, we're trying to listen to the thousands of people that come to the park as well. So we've got to listen to 80,000 people. Okay. Let's see. Is it Sylvia?
Okay, so addressing that problem, the 80,000 people, I've been to the park before and waited an hour or more in line just to ride the train.
Yep.
At least 30 minutes to push 3 times on the swing. And some people were saying only one push. And I thought, 30 minutes for one push? I don't think so. Take 3 and let everybody else take 3. But even then, it's really not what parks are for, to stand in line. And to add more parking, I believe, is just going to add more people. If someone comes and there's not a parking space, wouldn't they be better to come at a different time? The park is already at capacity on its high volume days. And to add more parking would just add more people, which doesn't really create a pleasant park experience. Trying to be part of the solution and not just part of the problem. I've thought of where more parking could be put if it was absolutely necessary and needed. The garden could remain. There's the gravel area that could take 10 to 12 stalls or more. There's a place on the west side that could, where it's just of the garden, where there's just landscaping that could add some more stalls. There's the picnic area by the stoplight. There's the volleyball area, which is used, but not nearly as much as the park or the garden. Even a portion of the tennis could be used, not the entirety. But my favorite idea would be to have the train extend over beyond the pond. I've wondered, why don't we take the train around the pond, give the train more a more interesting ride, going past the all the wildlife and things that are benefited out there, a benefit to the people. So the suggestion of relocating
You're at 2 minutes.
Okay.
So.
This suggestion of relocating the garden is like saying no to you and yes to other people who already have property, who live over in those areas. The Segmiller Farm, they've all got property where they can garden. But in the location it's in right now, it's near a lot of apartments and condos, people who don't have any property at all to garden in. So it gives them the opportunity. So I'd like to see a reconsideration, and it would be very beneficial to many people. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Is it Tana? Oliver?
I'm not kidding. You can speak another language and they would do it right, but here in America, they speak
Not so
German.
much, huh?
No. And this is not meant as a bribery, but as a family of limited resources and limited funds, something I'm not limited on is sharing my produce. So I hope I constructed enough bags. There's some kale, there's some
Thank you.
collard greens, there's some tomatoes, parsley, basil, I believe.
You may want that about 11 o'clock.
And I only made 6. So, Sean, you can have 10 pounds of tomatoes if you like. Because honestly, the only thing I like tomatoes for is salsa, and I already have more than I can handle. But with that being said, we, members of the City of St. George, should be proud of the Tonnaquint Garden, Community Garden. With that being said, a large part of the success of the garden should be given to the special relationship with the Water Conservancy District, the city, and those who do garden there. In email correspondence, I was told by the Water Conservancy that they would no longer be involved in any future community gardens. Would the city be willing to help therefore, those in the garden and gardeners by having similar resources, that is fencing, protection from vermins, even though they need to eat too, fertilizer on hand for when you need to before you plant your crops. It's already there on site at the community garden, a place where we can keep our tools so that I, who do not have a truck, don't have to cart rakes and shovels and everything that I need every time I go to the garden, and a garbage can in order to get rid of all of the roughage afterwards, so that, again, I don't have a vehicle that I can transport that back and forth for. I believe these resources that the Water District has helped us with at the community garden is a big part of the reason why the garden has been successful. It's made it very easy for us who don't have garages, who don't have backyards, who don't have big trucks. Out in Washington Fields, people there,
You're
the
at 2
demographic
minutes,
there,
Tana, so-
okay, I'll wrap up. The demographic there have large yards. We do not. The people, there's a lot of apartments and stuff like that. So basically, you can move the garden wherever, in the middle of the city, out in Washington Fields, but it doesn't serve a large demographic that have HOAs and no backyards. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Hope
you,
you like
Tana.
your stuff.
Appreciate it.
It's not poison. The stuff at the store might be, but this stuff has no pesticides.
Thank you, Tana. Well, and
It's all right, Mayor. We let the city attorney taste the food first.
oh boy, oh, you can thank him later, Sean. I will. Well, I'll just maybe make a couple comments, and that is, first of all, I do believe that the council in our staff reports at our last meeting said, we think it makes sense, and I'm just going to summarize, council, for brevity here. We think it makes sense to offer up several locations. We think one of the things that's difficult is there are only about 44 people that are able to participate in the garden where it's located now. That is true. We looked at the list. Right. But in terms of people that kind of pay for their plot, it's about 44. And so we could do the same thing in several other locations and trying to be sensitive to different parts of the city. Right now we operate one near Panorama that does very well, and we do have some city people that are helping to coordinate that. We would, as Tana just asked for, I think we would be willing, if the council's so willing, but the city manager and I and the parks people have said, we would be willing to help with education. We would be happy to have the Water Conservancy District continue to do this with us. If they choose not to, that's up to them. But we will encourage them to still participate. If they don't want to, we'll do it instead. And we're already doing some of that at the Panorama Garden. We could do that also at Seg Miller Park in Little Valley. It's not in Washington Fields, just so you know. It's close by, but Washington Fields in Washington, so I just want to make sure. Out in the Tules, but there were some people. There was one woman that was at the meeting last week who lives in Little Valley who said, I would love to try Seg Miller. And I appreciate that. I appreciate willingness to try some other things that could benefit, everybody possible. I believe we would be willing to help relocate the garden boxes, if you will, and also the soil that's been prepared and added to, amended over the last number of years. And so we could help with that. I think we could also relocate the fencing and do a pretty good job of making that still work. We would not be able to relocate the storage building, but I think we could look to providing a replacement, at least on some basis. It may not be a block building, but it could accommodate tools and some of the things you've talked about, Tana. I think there's a lot that we could work through. And as I mentioned to those that attended our little meeting last week, we're not trying to do this overnight. We would be looking to doing this probably around October of next year to make the move. And I think there's some things we'd be doing with your help and others in the meantime to prepare new sites, including Seg Miller, that could be virtually immediate if someone wanted to. And we need to do some further work with the Grace Episcopal Church, but they're talking about very generously leasing that to us for $1 a year. And so they've already got water, and they actually did some community gardening there previously. I'm sure the soil's going to need some work compared to what you're used to, but again, we could bring what you have there and work with you and try to make it as nice and as good as possible for as many people as possible. And I think that Grace Episcopal, again, they've got to get some approvals from their folks, would be willing to look at this at a pretty long-term situation. They don't think they're going to be needing that property anytime soon, if ever, although ever's a long word, so as we're all learning. So anyway, I think that's probably enough for today, Gary, but maybe a couple comments, and if there are parking issues, because we really have looked at this in terms of the Tonnequint Park that's adjacent, and of course the Thunder Junction All Abilities Park and the cemetery. Got a lot going on there.
Right. Just a couple of comments. I was involved when the property was purchased for a park site a number of years ago. I was involved with the starting of the project with the Conservancy District, and I agree with you. Unfortunately, we didn't put anything in a written document that said this is temporary, but it was always intended to be temporary. There are many, many, many days during the season from September through probably May where that overflow parking is being used on a daily basis. We have had over 150,000 rides on the train. And I wanted to make one comment to Sylvia. I know Sylvia and respect Sylvia. The reason the train ride is the way it is because this is an all-abilities park. And the attention spans for loading those special needs kids on the train and setting in the line, if you lengthen the ride to another 10 minutes long, they will not be able to stand in line and wait for that particular ride. And so we went through all those discussions with the special needs groups throughout the community when that train was designed, because I wanted to do exactly the same thing you did. I wanted to take it around the pond, the nature park, make the train ride longer, yeah. And it was not.
I wanted to go through the cemetery so
right.
Halloween could be really
fun.
fun.
We looked at all that, and we came back with the ride design as it was for the purpose we built the park, which is special needs. And so, and the thing people keep missing here is that we bought the property where the overflow parking is for the cemetery. There's 550 plots in there that gives us 2 more years, roughly 2 or 3 more years of uprights to sell for that. It was never intended to be a parking lot. We take that away, in those times during that heavy use, there'll be no place to park anybody anywhere. And I don't think the park's going to go less. I think the park's going to grow in the demand based on the experiences people are having in the park and the comments we get from all the people that want to come here. Now, that might be a problem in lining up and the use and the enjoyment of the park, but it's not going to get less. It's going to get more, in my opinion, except for the summer months. They took the survey from June to through July, and we know that when it's 100 degrees, we're not going to have as many people there. We have a parking problem. This would solve it, and I met personally with the Reverend, I believe, yesterday with my staff. That's a half-acre site. It's twice the size of what we currently have. There's water already there. There's a fence with mature pine trees on the one side. We could come in and take what we have there, take it over there. It may not be exactly the best. Maybe it'll be a challenge for you to be able to see how you grow. But we can, we already grow vegetables at our Seg Miller Park, and we donate it as well. And it's interesting that there's a soup kitchen every day of the week at this church. Mm-hmm. Where would it be better to let those folks have an opportunity to work and in the gardens and to help them grow their food and then take that produce and take it right to those soup kitchen. I think it's a win-win if we can get past getting over there and taking the boxes and helping amend the soil and helping do that. I think in a couple of years people will say that was a good idea, not necessarily a bad idea, and it's only 1.5 miles maybe at the most from the existing location to that site right down the road we have past the Dixie Center and right over to 9th East, so or 9th South. So I think we can work. We've got 15 months or so to try to make it work with the existing growers, and I think that that gives everybody a chance to even expand to twice what we have right now. And if there's people out there who want to have, this will give them an opportunity, plus take care of those existing. That's all. I know I don't want to, you don't want to debate, but that's just the comments that I have.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We've got to move on, but Paul, if you want to make a quick comment. Christina, will you pull the microphone down for him? This is Paul White.
Yes, I'm Paul White. I came to the Olive Village Park one time, 2 times. My brother from California, my sister from North Carolina. My nephews and nieces loved the sound park. The sound park part of it?
Yep.
The only part I was very disappointed in, the train was not operational when I went.
Darn it.
So we need to have it no more. If you're going to have the park open all year round, have the train going all year round. Another comment I want to make, when I got here, I wanted to follow the agenda online. The Wi-Fi is not working for the website. I can pull up Facebook really good, but the St. George website for the agenda is not pulling up at all.
From here, you're saying?
Yep.
We'll have to ask our IT guys
We
to
can simplify the website or amp up the Wi-Fi, more power.
Probably can't simplify the website much, but we'll certainly let our IT guys know and see what the problem might be. Maybe it's we've got a lot of people it's pulled up on mine right now just fine, but so I don't know. All of us have it, but thank you, Paul. And there is some thing we have to do. It's we have to look at what it costs to operate the carousel at the town square and the train at the All Abilities Park. You do have some off season where you're not going to have very many people on the train. So we've tried to keep it available and operational as much as possible. But sometimes we're going to have to close it. It doesn't make sense to keep it open. Theme parks even do that depending on weather and so forth. So thank you. And let's move on. We've got a lot of people that are here for other items, and so we've gone more than our 15 minutes, but thank you for your input. We do appreciate it. We'll do the best we can going forward to consider all opinions. Thank you. Okay, Gary, any changes to the agenda?
No, Mayor. I think we just probably passed public hearing time, so probably want to go back to public hearings.
Let's do.
Is that Ray?
First public hearing is item 3A, public hearing to consider amending the PDC zone for the fields at Mall Drive to develop a professional building for Riverside Dental. David R. Stevens is the applicant. And excuse me. Here we go. So on the screen shows it's a request for a zone change amendment to Lot 3, again at the fields at Mall Drive. And it's to develop a professional building for Riverside Dental. And the City Council will basically be looking at these items. They'll look at the zoning to amend the PDC Lot 3. They'll be looking at the conceptual site plan in a moment, looking at the access, the building design, materials, and the uses. This shows the aerial map. For reference, here's Lynn's, the new Lynn's off of Mall Drive. And right next to it, close to 3000 East, is the site that's proposed for this new building. This shows the zoning, which is PDC, stands for Plan Development Commercial. This shows the general plan supports it as commercial. And this is the conceptual site plan. It shows the building. Where the arrow is pointing now would be 3000 East. And it's showing the landscaping to meet city standards along 3000 East and some of the internal landscaping as proposed. The site plan, it's a little hard to see, but the same one I basically showed you on the sheet with all of the notes. A little bit closer view of it. Staff will be looking at that, the measurements for setbacks, parking sizes, access in and out with driveways. These show the elevations, and the first one is the south elevation. The north elevation, which would be facing Mall Drive. The east elevation is which faces 3000 East, the prominent, and you can see the name of the business, Simister Orthodontics, and Riverside Dental. And then the west elevation, which would be facing Lynn's. Materials and color board are on the screen, and now, if you'd like, I can hand you that little board there, or if you can see it.
Maybe you
Those
just
are the
hold it
colors.
up so we can see it a little bit better. It's what's on the screen for those of you in the audience. Yeah, maybe pass it down since we can.
So that concludes the visuals for it. And the Planning Commission does recommend approval. I'm looking at the last page of the staff report, page 3, before it gets into the graphics. And I'll go through this quickly. Number one, the use. The use there is already an approved use. It's part of that commercial subdivision. 2, what you're looking at is the building, the design, the elevations, the colors. Landscaping, number 3, overall conceptual landscaping is recommended for approval as presented. Of course, staff, again, will check all the numbers and all the materials when we do a site plan review, which is number 4. We'll look at the grading plans, the drainage, the landscaping, irrigation, photometric plan, etc. Roadways will be developed in compliance with the master road plan. We'll look at setbacks. Parking appears to meet and exceed the requirements. We'll look at lighting, erosion protection. The height is about 27 feet. And that is about it. That concludes the comments.
Questions, council, for Ray? Pretty straightforward. Okay. Anything from the applicant? Is the applicant here? No? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Then I will open the public hearing for any who might have come to offer input on this item, which is number 3A on our agenda. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action if you're ready.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the zone change amendment to Lot 3 of the Fields at Mall Drive, commercial subdivision to develop a fresh professional building for Riverside Dental.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Michelle and a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously.
Next item on the agenda is item 3B, a public hearing to consider amending the general plan from medium density residential and low density residential to commercial on approximately 4.23 acres, and the general plan from medium density residential and low density residential to industrial on approximately 4.29 acres. So there's two applications or two considerations for this application. The first is the commercial, and the second is the industrial, which is the current location of Sunrock. So this is the location. This is the area that the applicant's requesting commercial, and this is the industrial. This is River Road, Brigham Road. The current zoning on the property, you can see the Sunrock is M1, and it's PDR, which is part of the current Fossil Hills master plan. Current general plan along the front is MDR, and in the rear is low density residential. You can see the portion of Sunrock is low density residential, and so the second request is to extend the industrial to reflect what is built and what the use is on that property. So at Planning Commission, the applicant originally requested industrial but modified
their application and changed it to commercial. And so this exhibit reflects what their change was. You can see that Fossil Hills Townhomes is located to the north. The commercial is approximately 4 acres, and the extension of the industrial would be approximately 4 acres too. And so the applicant is requesting the land use designation of commercial, which would accommodate C2, C3, C1, and PD commercial, and it would dictate any future zoning change if approved. Couple pictures. See the Sunrock, Fossil Hills in the back, and the property has kind of a mound hill on it. Planning Commission, they took public comment, they discussed it, and they recommended approval for the commercial and also the industrial and the existing Sunrock piece. That concludes staff's presentation on this item.
Any questions for John on this, council?
I have some questions, Mayor, but I'll await public comments, if I might.
Okay. Does the applicant want to make any comments? No? Okay. All right. Then I will open the public hearing for any who may have come to offer input on this item 3B on our agenda. And if as you come forward, you just state your name for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Jeannie Bullock. I'm a citizen of St. George. I love St. George. I think what I'm concerned about, I think we all can concur that the applicant, when anytime you change from residential to commercial, it's financially advantageous to them. But I don't know how good it is for the citizens of St. George. On this one, I'm a little concerned about that. First, it would have to be changed to commercial. Then it would have to be also changed as an amendment to go to the industrial. I don't know what our thinking is of that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Others?
My name is Jennifer Kennedy, and I live in St. George. I actually live in the Fossil Hills townhomes, and my backyard is right up against that dirt hill. There are a lot of children in our community, as well as the apartments that are across the street from my community. Those are called Fountain Heights apartments. Huge apartment complex right there. By extending this to commercial and then into industrial, we've already got a lot of big rig trucks and stuff going on that road. That's just going to increase that. We've got kids crossing streets and playing and whatnot, not to mention the pets, the wildlife right there. We've got a lot of squirrels and cute little animals that are on that dirt hill behind my house, and those will go away. Not to mention the financial impact that that's going to do to the housing community right there by making this commercial and industrial is going to make our houses potentially worth less money, so our investments are going to decline. I guess that's all.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Stacy Young, representing Development Solutions. I can maybe shed a little bit of light on this for our neighbors, and we appreciate them coming out and expressing their interest in this application. We actually initially had laid out some multifamily residential on this site. We were in a meeting with Sunrock, and we're talking about what we were doing there, and the more we talked, the more concerned they became, because you're now putting residential next to industrial use with, backup alarms and deliveries at all hours of the night, and so the noise and that conflict began to concern them, and we could see some merit to that. And so as we went back and looked at what might make sense for this site, the ultimate use that seemed to make some sense to transition from industrial to the residential would be storage units. It's it's not an active industrial use. It's it's fairly quiet, but at the same time you don't have residents that are going to be impacted by the block plant next door. And so that's ultimately what we want to bring forward. The reason we brought forward the industrial designation initially was because the commercial ordinance is complicated and very onerous for doing storage units, and so that's why we initially brought it forward on that basis. The city asked us to amend that and look at doing it within the commercial zoning context, and we agreed. But you know, hopefully that's you know, resolves some of the questions or concerns the neighbors have. This is I think a fairly decent use if you have to slip something in between industrial and residential uses. The hillside that's there, it will remain in some manner, so there'll be some screening between this use and the townhomes, so the hillside will not be coming entirely down. So hopefully that is a little more detail about the application. I'm happy to take any other questions you might have.
I have a question, Stacy, because I did think that was going to be industrial. But just to clarify, are you saying now that by going commercial, you can still do the storage units or not?
You can do it under either designation. It's just that you have a different set of requirements, and the industrial, the commercial requirements, and I think many on the city staff actually agree that it doesn't quite work. There's a storefront requirement that ends up making it not feasible to pull
So
off.
actually you're going to get a site plan review and all that with that?
Exactly. So we'll bring forward a PD application that gives you the full site plan review, so you can see what we're doing. But yeah, one other thing that it may have gotten a little bit confused is that what John's referring to about the industrial component is really just changing the city's map so that it matches the actual existing boundaries of the Sunrock use. It doesn't actually include any of this undeveloped area.
Sean, could you make any comments about?
Well, and this one was a difficult one. I'd ask John to chime in too on this, but there's this parcel here and another parcel of property down on along Pioneer Road where they are putting the outdoor storage, where they would like to do, the property owners would like to do storage units. Unfortunately, our ordinance says that they can go into industrial areas and not have the required storefronts on them, basically. On the commercial areas, you can't. Yet in both those areas, it would actually be better for us to zone them commercial because of the neighboring residential than industrial. And Stacy's been good to discuss that with us. Another applicant, I think, is here tonight too, with Mr. Hermanson in the back. And what we would like to do, because we are redrafting Title 10, as you know, in its entirety, which is our zoning ordinance, is to say, can we move forward with these? We could prepare a temporary zoning ordinance saying that commercial storage units can go in commercial zones under these specific requirements and have the landscaping requirements, etc. I think all of us probably are fine with the Adams storage units on Dixie Drive and how those are landscaped and maintained. And in these unique areas, see if we can move forward with those two while redrafting our ordinance right now, which we're in the process of doing, so we'll be well within the 6-month time frame, and say no other storage units in the commercial zones until we figure out how exactly we'd like to address this. Because both of those properties, as you can see, would be better being in a commercial zone rather than industrial. Both of them are next to residential areas, and I think both of them would lend well to doing storage units in those locations because they're isolated from the other areas because of the uniqueness of the topography.
And then we also have some say on how it ends up looking.
That's right. That's right. In fact, a good example are the storage units on Sunset. With those, and I think we all agree that we've seen things come and go in those areas, the storefronts that sometimes don't necessarily work.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I agree.
I do too.
Okay. Any other questions for staff, comments? The public hearing, I haven't closed, so you can come back up. Just come by the microphone so we can hear you again. Thank you.
still have a question then. I guess I still have a little concern. Because it was my understanding, and like you said, the commercial would be good with the storefront in front of it and then the storage behind it. But to change it to all storage, which is what I understand you may want to do, and not have the business in front of it, you have to admit that's a different look than having storefront in front of it and then storage behind it than just going and seeing a storage unit. And I understood that would have to be an amendment. Is that correct, to change that to industrial for just not having the storage front?
We would have to do an amendment to our code,
So
but we
you're
could do a
doing two.
temporary zoning ordinance.
Yeah, so you're not only changing it from commercial, then you're changing it to industrial, from what I understand.
Well, yes, and you understand our concern with zoning of industrial, because technically, once it's zoned industrial, someone could come in and say, I've got all these industrial uses.
Yes, that's
They could
my
do that
concern.
later on.
Could be a lot worse.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The commercial is different than what it sounded like, going commercial and then to industrial. That's my concern.
Right.
So-
And I believe that's what's on the agenda. However, the council can make a decision that's different than that. And I want to just be clear, what I was proposing, talking with staff, is that we not require the storefronts on that particular piece.
That's what I understood
Okay.
you to say, that you want to just go industrial.
Well, I wouldn't
No
say industrial.
storefront.
We would say a commercial zone that would allow the storage units to go in there with
Without any-
landscaping requirements and everything, and those things, without requiring the storefronts.
That's all what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then
Like I
also,
said, I don't know that that's so good for the citizens, but thank you.
just for clarification, the part that shows there in blue, almost all of that currently is being used industrial.
Yeah, that's correct, and,
Yeah.
you know, the industrial park's very large. There's lots of room for industrial down that area.
But-
But I do
but
believe
it's already
right
being
now,
used
right
for
now
that.
it's- That's correct, you're
And
storing
we're trying to
things there.
clean that up.
But right now, it's still zoned for residential, from what I understand. Is that
Is
correct?
that the red part that's,
Well, the red part
and
and...
part, and
No, on the purple or blue, whichever
blue,
you call
yeah, kind of
it
purple
says
up
no,
there.
cleaning up the GP in this 4.29 acres, changed to industrial to
Right.
match what
On the
Sunrock's
ground.
What the
already
use-
doing.
Yep,
Right.
that's right,
But it's not what it is zoned for right now.
right.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. Thank you.
Mayor, if I
Ed?
might, I'd like to I recognize the fact that this is an amendment for the general plan amendment to change, and we discussed the commercial and the industrial aspects of it, but I'd like to be able to kind of make this a little bit of a teaching or learning process, and to have some transparency on the issue of air quality. Since we're going to be moving into this, we're talking for this particular purpose, and I recognize, Stacy, that DSG is one of the biggest builders in the city, developers, and also I noticed Sunrock, and so when I see those two together as we proceed, however this may turn out, I just wanted to get some comments from you on the issue of air quality. Is when you start excavating and moving the dirt and causing particles to go into the air, that there are measures that your company, and I'm sure Sunrock, since it's right next to all of this, and we see those health issues that arise, that you are supportive and you continue to be, and maybe you can enhance this as to making sure that we have the water trucks provided on these sites, the water tank provided, and the gravel to be able to put down so that it doesn't spread out and contaminate the other streets and areas. Maybe you can address those issues just briefly for me as far as air quality, because I want the citizens of St. George to know that this council is very concerned about air quality and health issues, and this just to move that forward, if you would, please.
Sure, yeah. I'm not on the excavation side of the house, so I'm not as conversant in exactly what the policies are, but I absolutely know that we take our responsibility there seriously, and we do our best to take measures to control the dust as best we can. It's certainly a challenge in a dry and windy environment, but absolutely we do take that seriously and look to keep the moisture in in the process as we are doing the excavation to keep the dust to a minimum.
And also, that's one of the requirements of the staff when you do bring that forward. That's one of the items that are addressed, you know, and they have to meet those standards when they do that. That's part of what the staff requires.
That's correct. The air quality permit is part of our construction plan review process, and so that's a series of things we have to comply with.
Right, and I'm motivated by this because of the fact that you can have a water truck on one site, maybe a mile away or a few feet away or down the road a bit, and you take it from that particular site to use it on this particular site. I just want to make sure that the citizens know that we are going to be holding you accountable to making sure. I know when there's non-compliance issues that you get a verbal notice and then you get a written notice,
Right.
and then we finally get to, if we're ending up to go beyond that for a penalty, and that, you know, I think I spoke with Sean a little bit, the penalty being maximum of $2,500, which is not very much, but sometimes we have to listen to the concerns of the people on the issue of health and air quality, that we want to maintain it. And so I want to make sure that your company, being one of the largest, if not the largest, is really on board with this, and that the citizens can be reassured that we're addressing that.
Absolutely.
Ed, I think perhaps there's some misunderstanding. These are the same requirements that we have for a regular residential subdivision. It's not like you're trying to put in a brand new requirement. We already have those in place.
Right. We just want to make sure that I just.
Well, we want to do that on everything that we do. I mean,
Well,
they have to monitor him. I don't think this is a unique situation.
No, it may not be, but you know, Joe, I just happened to look at some pictures of the work being done in Sunrock right next door, where they crush and make cement and gravel, and the clouds billowing up in the air, and the need to make sure that it's being watered down properly. And so I've taken this opportunity to bring some attention to that issue, and that's what I'm only trying to do. And we put Sunrock a little, put Stacy a little bit on the spot to do that. But that was my intent, and that was my reason for it. And I understand that Development Solutions is very responsive. We want to make sure that the public knows that we're going to continue to address those issues.
And they don't own Sunrock.
Right. I think you probably don't want anybody to be confused out there that Stacy's company that you
Development
associate with
Solution
this
does not
development
own
does
Sunrock.
not own Sunrock. That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion to.
Hang on just a second. Looks like we might have one more public comment. Sure. Tell us your name one more time.
Jennifer Kennedy.
Okay.
And I don't know what storage units are going to look like. I mean, I know what
We will.
I know what storage units look like, and
Yeah.
they look dumpy, and I don't want those in my backyard.
Have you seen the ones that the city attorney referred to on Dixie Drive?
Which ones are? I drive on Dixie Drive. Which ones are they?
Swiss Storage? Yeah.
So are they going to look like that then? And how are we going to guarantee that they're going to look like that?
We get to guarantee
We
what
get-
they look like.
And what if they end up looking like crap? Are you guys going to come
They
in and
wouldn't
say
look like
you have
crap
to
because we
change
wouldn't
it?
let them look like crap.
Yeah.
We have to see the plans before they're built.
Okay,
And
and
what
then
it's going to
what's-
look like and the landscape plans and everything. And we wouldn't want ugly, crappy storage units going next to residential.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because the apartments across the street, yes, they're low income, but they do look nice.
And,
And
I live in that area. I know
Yeah,
right where
okay,
you're talking
good.
about.
Then you know about all the kids in that area, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe they're gonna do this. But and then what's to say that years and years down the road, okay, they build a storage, you have it zoned for commercial storage units, decide that they want to sell whatever, and now you get a big huge store in that area, and we don't want that. Well, I mean, what's to stop
You may
that?
want that instead of driving up River Road and having to go into town to do your shopping.
That's true, but I do like Harmon.
We do need to have commercial other than right downtown.
Right, I agree.
We can't bind the hands of future city councils, but we can I think, protect it from what, they could be asking right now for industrial, which is, I think worse. So we're trying to do something that is kind of a good buffer, I would suggest, and
Well, now,
has worked in other areas.
Okay, so are they going to build a block wall or some noise retention or something to divide the units?
That's what I would anticipate, but this is sort of before that's sort of getting ahead.
So are they going to have another meeting to decide, so we can come to that meeting
Correct.
and decide all that stuff?
Correct.
Sorry, this is my first time doing
It's
anything
okay.
like
You're
this.
doing
I have
great.
No idea what to do.
You're doing great, and we're glad you're taking an interest.
And now you know who you need to talk to.
I feel talk to me.
He will talk to you. He's a good guy.
Yeah, because seriously, my backyard is right on
there.
that dirt hill. So I'm like nervous. Hey, I do like food.
Well, no, I can't offer you this, but it might be considered a bribe.
No, all right,
Thank you, Jennifer, right? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, are there any other comments from the public? I'll close the public hearing at this time and come back to you. I believe you might have been ready to make a motion.
Sure.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on this.
Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the general plan amendment from the medium density residential and low density residential to commercial on approximately 4.23 acres, and to clean up the general plan from the medium density residential and low density residential to industrial on the approximately the 4.29 acres located north of the existing Sunrock plant and Development Solutions.
Second.
Sean, we have a motion by Ed and a second by Joe, but we might need to change it just a little bit. Sean?
As I explained, it was good of the applicant to change it to commercial, and they did that with the commitment from us that we would do a temporary zoning ordinance and then look at changing that zone. I think there will be another one before you too that will want you to consider that. So I would ask if you all agree with what we explained tonight about the concern on these two parcels and preferring to have a commercial zoning rather than industrial, but not requiring that storefront or retail aspect of it, that you direct staff to prepare a temporary zoning ordinance regarding storage units in commercial zones, and we can bring that to you at the next council meeting.
Does that need to be part of this motion?
Part of this motion would be good.
I have a question on that before you do that.
Okay.
To clarify in my poor little mind, you said they do not require the storefront?
That's what we would propose in the temporary zoning ordinance, that and we can draft it so that it applies to unique situations, so that these two, and you'll see another one that will come forward that we explained where the location is, can move forward with a commercial designation and still make the plans they have for their storage units without requiring that, rather than their option, which was to come in and ask for it to be zoned industrial.
So we could still request that they do have storefront anyway?
You could, if you want to do that in your temporary zoning ordinance, but that's already there. What I'm saying is I think that these applicants move forward in good faith when we said we'd prefer to have, we think the council will too, prefer to have this commercial rather than industrial because of those concerns the neighbors raised. And so we appreciate the fact that they would do that we have that kind of relationship, that they would put that trust in us.
Ed, are you willing to so stipulate the modification?
Yes, I think that is
to direct
appropriate,
staff.
and that would be appropriate. Thank you very much.
So we will direct staff as part of this motion to draft a temporary, what'd you call it? Temporary zoning ordinance, as has been described by the city attorney. Are you okay with that on your second? Okay, so we have a modified motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Joe this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Stacy. Thanks to our staff for working through it, and thank you from the public. You'll hear more about it. Again, this was this was a plan, a general plan change amendment. So there will be more, and you'll be notified.
Next
John.
item, 3C. Public hearing to consider amending the general plan from professional office and low-density residential to high-density residential on approximately 7.91 acres located in the vicinity of Valley View Drive and Sunset Boulevard. Applicant is Mr. Dave Nazel. So this again, this is a general plan amendment. This is the subject site. Valley View is located here. Sunset, Chevron, Phoenix Plaza right across the street. There's also the two LDS churches located southwest of this property. The current zoning on the property is R110. Two land use designations are on this property. PO, which is professional office, which can accommodate administrative professional zoning, and low density residential, which is up to 4 units an acre. It's a single family land use category. This is what the applicant is proposing. They're proposing HDR, which is high density residential. High density residential can accommodate between 16 to 22 units an acre. They have left the area around the cul-de-sac as low density residential. And so if this were to be developed, it would be developed as single family. A couple pictures. You see the LDS church. Typically on these, I'm able to provide you some sort of range of units. However, this property is in the hillside overlay, and so not all the hillside would be developed. They would have to conform and comply with the hillside overlay zone, and so they'd be limited on how much disturbance and the number of units that they could develop. A couple other views. This is looking kind of southerly. See the LDS church. You can see that a lot of this property is located on the hillside. There is kind of the flatter portion that's located along Valley View, close to the churches. As you move further, the hill is steeper, and they'd be limited on how much they could disturb. A couple other pictures. This is looking down 950 in the circle, looking out over the property. Planning Commission spent quite a bit of time reviewing this and hearing public comment. There's a lot of public comment that was received on this application, and the Planning Commission recommended denial on this request based on HDR, the feeling that HDR is not appropriate at this location and that LDR was appropriate. Again, the applicant is here to answer any questions on this application, and that concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions for John? At this time, we can call him back up later if we do. Okay, thank you. Anything from the applicant?
My name's Dave Nazel, the applicant for this. Like John showed on the slide there, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing with Hillside Committee, whether Hillside goes first before Planning Commission and City Council, or vice versa. Anyway, it ends up here first. But the majority of that property is 20% or above. There's only about 2.25 acres of usable property out of that 7.91. So the HDR does, it looks like it's covering the whole property. Most of that's undevelopable property. We did feel with staff, to finish out the cul-de-sac, leave the low density residential along the cul-de-sac and leave it. And that's the question with the general plan amendment. We know that high density residential is a hot topic, and we've had the opportunity to speak with some of the neighbors, not all the neighbors. We know it's a charged topic. With it being, where does high density belong? With the Valley View being a busy road on one side, a hill on the other, commercial on the north, a couple churches on the south. It's fairly isolated property. Some of the maps, we pull up city maps. Across the street's Homestead Farms subdivision. On the city maps, it shows as an R110 designation. When you actually pull up the size of that property and the unit count, it's fourplex. There's 68 units there. It's over 12 and a half units an acre, and there's a couple other properties like that that are 17 and 20 units per acre. So we feel like where just the topography of the area with the buffer with the road across from commercial on a couple sides, the church, there's never an ideal spot unless it's in the middle of nowhere, nobody's around to put high density. This seems like as good a spot as any. We could get into the market and stuff like that. I mean, everybody's aware the rental market and the housing market's extremely tough. And this is a gap in the market that we have right now.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant before we open the public hearing?
Yes, were there any traffic studies as to the comparison between what it is now and to when you increase this density and you're going to put all of those vehicles on that road and exiting in that residential area?
Not yet, and this comes into with Hillside in some preliminary conversations with them and looking. We've had some slope analysis done for it. Even if you maxed it out at the highest end of high density on the high end, you could get up to 50 units on the property. And if it was required, we'd gladly do one with the, our proposal wouldn't be for 50 units. So just with the traffic that's already on Valley View and Sunset, you know, I don't know that it would impact it more than it already is.
Thank you.
Other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, thank you. All right, we will open the public hearing at this time for any who have come who would like to offer input on this item 3C on our agenda. And if you just come forward and speak into the microphone, state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Sally Manning. I live on 950 West, and it really does impact our neighborhood. We have a lot of children on that street, and they use that street. But more importantly, we live on the top of the hill, and you buy property on top of the hill to see a magnificent view. And when I was under the impression with the last planning meeting that he was going to have a 3-story apartment buildings there, and that would cut off our view to the Red Hills and on that area there. And when your view is encumbered, your property is not worth as much. And I would feel really badly if that affected us. And besides that, Valley View Drive is very, very busy drive. There's townhouses right across the street from where the parking lot there is, and there's 2 sets of different ones. One is the Red Canyon, and the other one's called the Barns. And there's a lot of people coming in and out of there. There's a lot of traffic going up and down Valley View all the time. So I would think that the impact to the street itself, because it's so close to the corner where the Texaco station is, the hills there, that it would really be a lot more traffic to deal with, a lot more people to deal with. If he wants to buy the property and build, there's not a whole lot we can do. He has the right to build. Nevertheless, if it impacts the whole neighborhood and it harms more than hinders, then, I mean, it's just, we're not excited about it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Let the applicant come back for a minute.
I forgot to show one slide. Is before your packets had gone out, or after your packets had gone out, we were amending the application with what you saw. The slide was the HDR down to minus the cul-de-sac. We have amended it. I should have dropped the church in here, but you can see the cul-de-sac at the bottom, just kind of the round part, so that the high density was up towards the north. And just for reference, for where the south end, where the homes are on that cul-de-sac to where the green starts, is a football field away.
Okay, thank you. Other comments?
Good evening. My
Good
name
evening.
is Dolores Skakinen, and I live there in the neighborhood just the next cul-de-sac up. And we would suffer from a drop in the value of our homes with this problem of three-story complexes there. Why doesn't the city buy it, make a park? The children have no place to play, or you could do another garden spot.
Sounds like we need one over there, huh?
Yes, it's a good location. But we do have a lot of problems because we do have a a higher density than normal. As mentioned, the complexes across the road, there's 2 side by side. And it causes, I, as a Relief Society president, witnessed drug abuse, drug dealings, spousal abuse, all kinds of horrible things going on. And we don't need more of transient people coming and going and causing problems. On Saturday night, my husband, he's the security person for the One Chapel. He discovered graffiti, and it was satanic graffiti on the chapels. And he's constantly having problems when he goes, constantly. And so increasing and bringing in more tenants that are not stable, that come and go, and I can just see more trouble. And I'm not too pleased about that. So we don't really need 3 more 3-story buildings in the neighborhood. And that cliff, or that hill, is much steeper than what the pictures actually depict. If you took a drive there, you would see it is much steeper. And if they cut into it, we're afraid they might be disturbing things. If they have to blast, there's people with in-ground pools that may be damaged, all kinds of things with your homes. So we're just very much against it. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dolores. Other comments?
Good evening. My name is Russell Red. My house borders this new construction project. Basically, we need to call this what it is. This construction guy wants to come in here, tear the hill out, stack apartments in, make a big profit, and leave. 3-story stacked up apartments is going to be a disaster on that hill. It's going to drop all of our property prices right off the bat. It's going to disturb our view of the Red Mountains north of that. It's going to impact our neighborhood. He'll make his money, leave. We're going to be stuck with a bunch of apartments that may look nice at first, but eventually get run down because people that are notorious for not maintaining apartments. It won't take long down the road, but we do not want that hill tore out with a dozer and stacked up high-density apartments in there ever. We've gone over this and over this. We've fought this this hill from high-density apartments multiple times here. We need to put this to bed and leave it. I don't think anybody in our neighborhood has a problem with single-home residential going up around there, but we don't want the hill tore out and high-density 3-level apartments. It's just not going to work.
Thank you. I might just mention, no one will be allowed, in my opinion, to violate the hillside ordinance. Might just mention that, and it is something, and this is what the council will have to kind of decide. We all know we probably need some more apartments. The question is, do we need them here? Is it appropriate here? And there are a number of other apartment complexes being built currently in our city, and I don't think we need to build them all in our city, by the way. I think it's great to have some apartments spread around and to have the density spread around. It doesn't all need to be in St. George. It can be in Washington, Santa Clara, Ivans, and other places. So anyway, appreciate the comments. Well, we have control. We don't have control over those cities. Yep, that's right. Okay, sir.
Appreciate your views on that, Mayor Pike. Zach Spafford, I also live right there in the same neighborhood. I think it's important to, number one, go back to this, the City Planning Commission. First of all, they've already declined to approve or to recommend that this go forward. So I think it's important that we recognize that, because the neighborhood came out in force to have this conversation with them, and to reiterate that we are simply not. We don't accept this as a good idea on its face. And I thought it was interesting. One of the members of the City Planning Commission, they said, I'd like to see this developed. And I think that does not show, in my mind, a very good foresight. We don't have to develop every square inch of St. George. I think we all can recognize that green space is an essential part of every city. And just because some builder wants to come in and build doesn't mean we should build there, notwithstanding the revenues that could come into the city. I fully understand that we do have to run a city here, but just because somebody says, I'd like to build here, doesn't mean we have to develop every square inch of land. And I'd like to just point out, the master plan was created for a reason, and when the master planners put this space down, they saw it as a nice neighborhood where low-density residential should be put in, and I think that should be continued. I'd like to also point out the additional burden on the local schools. I think when you put in high-density residential, we oftentimes fail to see the impact on the local schools. I have 7 children and 1 on the way. We are a great number.
Dude, you're really helping our population.
Right,
out
I
here,
am
aren't you?
working for you guys to get more taxpayers. I fully recognize that. However, when we put additional high-density residential in these areas, are we really? I mean, is the builder going to be responsible to pay for the additional salaries of the teachers, the additional classroom space that's going to be required to have that? I don't think so, and I don't think that they care about that. And yet the tax base, the people who live there for the next 30 years do. That's me, that's my neighbors, and I think that we should have an outsized say in what goes in our neighborhood. We have a great deal of high density space already within 1 half mile of our neighborhood. We have a number of apartments on 540. We have the condos, again, across the street. We need to recognize that there's already a great deal of traffic on Valley View, and if we don't do something to mitigate some of that, we're going to continue to see traffic that outstrips the capacity of the road system there. As my neighbors mentioned, impact to the views, impact to the resources, including schools, impact to traffic. We really need to be good about weighing the costs and benefits. And I would outright refute the assertion by the builder that this is quote unquote an isolated space. I mean, let's be honest. If anything is within 5 minutes of your house, it's not isolated from your home, and that's for him to say it's isolated is. Let's just say it's a factual inaccuracy. Let's just leave it at that. And I would just finish by saying my neighbor's comments are, to me, indicative of the entirety of our neighborhood's feel on this. The people who are most concerned about the property values, the traffic, and the neighborhood deterioration, they're sitting in this room, and they're going to be greatly impacted by a builder who, I can appreciate he's trying to make a living. However, making a living at the expense of the people who live in an area is, in my view, very short-sighted. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your consideration on this, and I really would urge you to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission to decline to change this zoning. Thank you.
Hey, will you stay there for a minute? Is it Zachary?
It is.
I want to pick on you, Zach.
Don't pick
on you
on
for a
me.
minute.
That's not nice.
No, just so I can wrap my. So if I understand right, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a piece of this property that's already general plan professional office. Is that correct?
Correct, which I think would fit quite nicely in with what's already in that particular area in terms of you've got the Texaco station right there, you've got shops just across the street. That all seems to fit in terms of what we already have in that area.
So in your opinion, you would prefer to see that versus apartment buildings?
Yeah, because, well, and I think that's a very good question. And the reality is here that a community comes together to take care of its own, right? And when you put into a community a number of units that are going to, in all likelihood, be lower income, lower contribution in terms of tax base, et cetera, that means that the remainder of the community has to pick that up and you know, move forward with it. And so when you think about, okay, should I put a business in here? Businesses in general, though not always, are self-sustaining in terms of their tax burden on the area, and also they are, in general, bringing up the value of an area, right? Because they are contributing in terms of wages, taxes, jobs, et cetera.
I guess what I'm just trying to make sure that I'm clear on as I look at this as someone who owns property there and it's part of your neighborhood. Sometimes when we see these zone changes, obviously we start to look at all the impacts it could have. And I agree with you on the fact that we need to make sure when we're moving in, we know what's going to be next to us because we see professional office space and we see low density residential, and that's important. But what could possibly go into that professional office? I mean, it may not be exactly what you're imagining in your mind. Right now, the master plan allows for some certain things in that professional office that may be just as detrimental or more so. So all I'm saying, and I'm not saying it would be, I just want to make sure that we're all thinking about this in the what. I understand that we don't want to change it in midstream, and it can cause some concern for the neighbors, and I lean in that way with you on that.
Right.
But a lot of times when we see this, we might have an opportunity to get something that would be less impactful to your neighborhood, even traffic-wise, with professional office. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, have you thought about that? And is that what you're saying? And I'm
not entirely following your question. What exactly are you asking?
So what could go in on professional office? So there could be some major office buildings right there.
Sure.
Tall, impact the view, just like we're talking about the apartment buildings. Would that impact you more than maybe 3 or 4 apartment buildings with some more open space?
So, yeah, really good question, right? Because you're saying, if we put in 3-story office buildings, is the view going to change dramatically? And as such, are you also going to come down here and be mad at angry citizenry, right?
Well, but it's already approved for that, so
right,
it probably wouldn't even come to this point. It would be...
Exactly. I think that is one of many, many concerns on this particular issue. And you know, yes, I think we all recognize that we here in St. George, we love our views. Right? That's why a lot of people have moved here from all over the world, not just from northern Utah, right? That being said, that is only one concern. And while I appreciate you addressing that specifically, yeah, sure, we could, as a neighborhood, maybe we should come and request that we change it all to low-density residential. Maybe that's a possibility. However,
well, if you owned the property, you could do that.
Right, exactly. Specifically speaking, however, what I can tell you is that as a neighborhood, we do not want more individuals than the area should have in it. Right? When we talk about low-density residential, we're talking about single-family homes generally, right? And we're talking about people who they're part of a community in a way that you're not when you live in an apartment. I'm 36 years old. It was not that long ago that I was living in apartments with me and my small family, right? But when I bought my first house, I became a different kind of community individual. And I think that's what our neighborhood is asking, is that we maintain a community that has strong ties and that has individuals who are tied to that community in a way that apartment dwellers much as they're not bad people.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. That was just wanted to see your personal feeling on that, and that I think.
Would I like to see high-rise buildings there? No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
However, whoever owns the place, if it's already zoned that way, I suppose that's entirely up to them. But I don't think that's the issue that we're addressing here.
I'm just saying we may we may have an opportunity to get something better in some of these situations. Maybe not in this case. I'm not saying that.
Who knows?
Yeah. Sometimes when we look at that, we may get something worse than what we would have had on the apartments.
Sure.
That's all. I just wanted you to answer
Although,
that and to see where you come from. That's fine.
That's a very good point, but I think I do not see office buildings as worse than high density.
Perfect. That was
end of the day.
That was my question.
Okay. Thank you.
Well
Yeah,
said.
Absolutely.
Can I make a comment, or are we waiting for the public hearing to be over?
You can make a comment.
I make a comment. Just a couple of comments along the way as I've been taking notes. First, I disagree that Mic's off, people. Is that on? Is it better now? Okay. I disagree that all apartments bring in a criminal element. And I have learned being on the city council that we are not guaranteed a view. I had a beautiful view. Exactly. Finish the donuts and come in, thank you. I know. And, you know, as much as I would love to have my view back, I'm not guaranteed that. That being said, I grew up on 750 North. I know right where this is. I watched, when I was younger, the barns weren't there. When they were first built, they were pretty nice. We all know they're not now. Red Canyons has stayed nice. You have a lot of low-income apartments all the way down Valley View. I believe St. George needs more apartments, but I do not believe we need more apartments on Valley View. We have so many apartments in one section right there that it impacts our police department. We know that, and many other things. So that being said, I just think we're trying to put too many apartments in one area where we have an abundance of them.
Yeah, Michelle, and I absolutely appreciate that because, and I think that I don't think that any of my neighbors believe that just because you live in an apartment, you're a criminal element, because I can almost guarantee you that every one of them at one point in their lives lived in an apartment. But I think that you are right, and the reality is that we've got to look at the broader picture, not just this one parcel of land. And the reality is, as you stated, we have a lot of people in that area already in high density homes.
Right.
We really need to be careful about changing
nicer
the
to have
master
them
plan.
spread out.
Yes.
Thank you. I want to try to keep us moving here.
My name is Gary Manning. I also live on 950, right above the subject property. I would love to repeat absolutely everything my neighbors have already stated, so I'll spare you that. But I would like to add a couple of things. First of all, I'm speaking basically of the logistics of putting in these apartments in this particular area. If I heard the applicant correctly, he said that it would go on, or the buildings would go on the north side or towards the north end of the property. And that is the steepest part of that hill, which means they would have the largest cut, which means the largest scars. Now, last meeting, they said that the buildings would hide the scars, but that's just not physically possible. So I'm concerned a little bit about that. Also about the logistics of getting onto the property. Because of the turning lane that services, is it Phoenix Plaza, I believe it is? Because of that turning lane and the intersection where it becomes four lanes there at the intersection of Sunset, there isn't room enough to put the entrance in that area. It would have to be down towards the north end of the church parking lot, if it can even get in there. And that's why I'm concerned about that also, is because with the amount of traffic that's already there, I can't see how it's possible they can get an entrance into that section. As I mentioned in the last meeting, I've seen traffic back up from the northbound lanes on Valley View Drive, there at the Sunset intersection, all the way down to the church parking lots in the morning, especially when commuters are trying to get over on Bluff. So I'm just real concerned about those issues. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Other comments? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. Is there anything further the applicant would like to say? And then
And
I'll
I'd
come
like
back
to say something too.
And yeah, we'll let the council discuss as they'd like to.
Yeah, just wanted to respond to a couple things. Totally agree with Scars. Don't want to repeat what's happened on the other side of the hill there.
Don't worry, you won't.
No, exactly. Working with Hillside, that can be involved. And there are ways to use use foundations to cover scarring. The traffic that comes off Valley, I mean, I can't do anything about the traffic on Valley View already. For the cul-de-sac that's there, through traffic wouldn't go through. It would come off Valley View, except for the couple residential lots that would be added in the cul-de-sac. I know a lot of times, these developments happen here in the center. High density doesn't happen on the outskirts of town because your services, your transportation, your grocery, all that's in town, and so oftentimes higher density, it doesn't make sense in the exteriors of the town. In developing every square inch of it, like I'd mentioned, 2/3 of the property would be left open, and from a view standpoint, we've done elevation studies out there, and whether this is the place for it or not, views can be protected from where the homes are, even given if it were a 3-story building, just given the topography of it. You take out Del Taco for some of them across, on the north side of Sunset, but the Red Rock views would be maintained. That's from a surveyor. But yeah, I appreciate some of the comments that were made, and that it doesn't devolve into a those people, because, like you mentioned, and I don't know that these wouldn't be condos. I don't know if that. I'd be open to suggestions, but I don't know if people view apartments or condos differently as part of a neighborhood if I own a condo as opposed to if I rent an apartment. Anyway, appreciate it.
Thank you. Council, discussion?
I have a couple of comments about it. I talked to a couple of property managers around town today. Over the past 5 years, rates for apartments have increased 30%, which does not keep up with income increases. And there is a drastic need for more apartments. Drastic need. Whether this is the right place or not is part of the problem also. However, is there a right place? I live in the center of town. Most of that area is rental properties. Great people live there. And they ultimately move and buy houses. But I think we have to be very careful about the connotation that we don't want those people living in our neighborhoods. That offends me, and I hope that we cannot use that as part of our argument in the future. I just know we're in drastic need for apartments for people, and there are a lot of things in the works coming through the city. It's already been approved, and that ultimately will be helpful. But there's probably no perfect spot for apartments or high density. But we still have to have some of those things available to the general public.
Okay, other comments?
It depends on the use, but usually around 100 units of residential would require a traffic study. So at this time, not knowing how many units they're going to put in or the size of an office, we're not sure whether it'll trigger one or not. At this point, we're just looking at the use. We'll know more, whatever goes in, whatever's proposed, we'll know more what the traffic impact would be.
Thank you. Good question. Other comments? Yes, Gary?
Well, just from a personal standpoint, I guess I've lived in Green Valley for 32 years. And when I used to drive Valley View Drive, there was nobody there. In fact, there was the more business forums down in the fields, and that was about it. And as
did you wave to Joe? Did he wave to you while you were? Okay.
Yeah, right. I didn't know that. But my point being is that I agree. I get offended by the connotation. I know it wasn't meant that way tonight, but every time we talk about density, we talk about the people that are in apartments. And, I have 5 children as well, and they've all had to be in apartments, and I've been in apartments. So I think there might be some of that where they don't buy into the neighborhood because they're just renting, but I don't think they're necessarily bad people. But that being said, I agree with Michelle. This whole town, we've got 60 square miles, and why can't we spread the opportunity with density brings to be in other neighborhoods? I think Valley View Drive, if you did a calculation of density, is the highest density area in the entire 60 square miles of the city. And so to say that we need to add more density in that particular location, I think, where do you put it? But I think that certain sections of our community have had their share of that challenge of density. If whether it's the types of folks moving in and out, and the resources that are necessary to accommodate the density, the police actions and all that stuff. There is some correlation with the more dense you are to the certain incidences happen, but. Not to say this would increase that, but Valley View Drive in that particular area, I think, has enough density to overshadow most other areas. And I do believe that we need apartments, and we do have 4 different projects that are going in right now that hopefully will eliminate the total need. There will always be need for apartments, especially with the affordable, in the affordable housing project where we don't have affordable housing, so people are going to have to be in apartments. In our community, we need to make places for them, and we need to and we look at our zoning. In my opinion, even in certain areas of our community, have 0, and that's not necessarily fair to that we have the densities that we can't share in the old style of the old zoning where you traditional zoning, traditional family zoning, where you had a mix of high. Big homes and small homes and apartments, and that was okay. So I'm not sure we can't find a place and whether this is a place or that or not, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to develop that parcel of property effectively or efficiently, and there are private property rights obviously that ought to be taken into. You just can't say you're not going to have anything happen there, but I just think that maybe there might be a better location on the west side and maybe they've had their share for now, and maybe. That's just a personal opinion, not professional.
Council, any other comments? And I appreciate that, Gary.
I have one other comment.
Mm-hmm.
Always keep in mind it's called a general plan, not a master plan. General plans are designed to be changed. That's part of why they're called general plans. And where I live downtown, we have a whole bunch of rentals and great people. I've mentioned that already, so. I have a little trouble with.
I really think, again, I don't think I'll be voting tonight unless one of you recuse yourselves. But I really think, to me, it comes down to this specific area, and I really agree with what's been said. I do not think we should pack an area with high density.
I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
It's first one of this type, so I may not do it correctly, but I'd like to move that we deny this request due to the location and the high density.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Betty with a second by Ed. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Nay.
Okay, so the motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Appreciate the community coming out and expressing yourselves in 2 public meetings. That's what they're for. And I appreciate the applicant as well. And again, as Gary said, there are property rights to develop, but as the plan indicates, it'll stay at this point residential and
Professional office.
professional office. John?
Next item, 3D, a public hearing to consider amending the general plan from low-density residential to commercial on approximately 2.63 acres located on Pioneer Road, west of I-15 freeway. This is just north of the general plan amendment that we heard last year. This is the location. Pioneer Road is located here. I-15, Sugarleo. It's the hill that is currently being developed just to the south, Monster Storage. Current zoning on the property is open space. Its current general plan is low density residential. There is the commercial that's located to the south, and so what the applicant is requesting is to expand this commercial to take in this portion of the property. This was amended last year by Monster Storage, and again, the request is to extend this to the northeast. Exhibit provided by the applicant. Again, the request is commercial, which would accommodate C2, C3, and also PDC on the property if it is approved. The next step would be a zoning application. Couple pictures of the property. Planning Commission, they heard it. They heard public comment on this request, and they recommended approval to the change from low density residential to commercial. And that concludes staff's presentation on this item. The applicant is here and available to answer questions.
Questions for John, council? I think we are aware of the issue a little bit better now. Thank you. Would the applicant care to say anything? There he is. Questions for the applicant? Okay, none at this time. All right.
Are they
then.
going to be ugly?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we were
Yeah,
talking about
that's-
earlier? Ugly. Just
No, it
kidding.
was crap, and I don't understand that word and what that means.
Yeah, crappy. That was the word. Sorry.
All right, then I will open the public hearing at this time for anyone who might have come to express opinions on this one, item 3D on our agenda. Seeing none, I'll come back to you, council. Any questions, comments, discussion, or ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to amend the general plan from low-density residential to commercial on Pioneer Road, west of I-15, north of Monster
Second.
Storage.
Do we need to make the same caveat?
No, I
Because
think
we already did it?
because you already did,
Very
yes.
good. Okay, so we have a motion by Michelle and a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Joe this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Good. Look forward to seeing that work out with legal and the temporary zoning and ordinance. Okay. All right, let's see, what shall we do next? Should we go back? Yeah, right at the
back
very
to-
beginning.
Okay.
Jimmy doesn't know that we skipped all of
Yeah.
2. Sorry about that.
Stayed away longer.
If we can maybe go to resolutions, 5A.
Sure.
We also have an addendum, 5B,
Let's do it.
5A, double A, but we'll say 5B.
Those are quick.
The first one is a resolution authorizing the issuance of $9,600,000 in excise tax revenue refunding bonds. The market is in a position where we can realize an opportunity to refund the airport bonds that are outstanding right now, and we can also correct an issue where we have a balloon payment in 2024 by doing one level debt service and issuing these new bonds and realize savings in the interest rate. This, you might recall, is secured by the $700,000 agreement with the Washington County for their help with the airport. So that would be the resolution. We'd also like, if you could, to authorize the George K. Baum as the underwriter for this issue. We took proposals from 3 different underwriters. We don't think it's a public offering. We tried to do a private placement, and nobody will go out to 2034, the length of time, and so we'd like to expedite this and get into the market. And we've used George K. Baum on a number of occasions, and they appear to be the best cost for the city of the 3 proposals that our financial analysts got for us. That's a separate action. You don't need to take any action on that unless you think that wouldn't be correct. But the resolution is what we need official action on.
Okay.
Mayor,
Can I say so moved?
Gary?
Yes.
Just for transparency's sake, can you indicate to the public how much savings this would bring forth? This is an effort to save the taxpayers of St. George some money, is it not?
Well, I think that normally what we do is we look at if there's at least a 3% savings, then it's worth it to pay the cost of underwriting. We're not sure exactly until we get into the market where we'll be at, but we'll be in excess of, I think it's around 7 or 8% savings is what we have right now, but we can refine those numbers, but it's way in excess of 3%, which is normal threshold for us. The most important thing, I think, is that it allows us to get away from the uncertainty of 2024 when we have a significant balloon payment that we would have to refund at that time. And with the interest rates the way they are right now, locking those in to, I think it's 2034, and keep the debt service at the same level makes economic sense for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Gary. Other questions on this? Otherwise, I think we had a council member. Yeah. We had a motion by Betty and a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, this is a resolution calling for a roll call vote. All in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
You want to take that resolution?
Yeah. Do you want to do?
I don't have the copy of it.
I do.
Yeah. Will you take care of that 6A,
Yeah.
AA, B?
What is it?
Addendum?
5AA. 5A, yeah. Okay, so, Council, if you saw your addendum, this is consideration to approve the resolution adopting the recommendations of the St. George Arts Commission to the City Council regarding the distribution of RAP tax arts funds for the fiscal year 2017-18. What I would suggest, I've reviewed this, the city manager has. I don't know, did you get copies of it? I know several Betty did because she's on the Arts Commission. Michelle, I believe, saw it. This represents $225,000. What I would suggest is this, and this is just my suggestion, you can choose to differ, but we have set up a process at this time that has the Arts Commission as the reviewing and recommending body for these funds. And so I would suggest that we approve a resolution passing them as they've been presented to us. That said, I would also like to suggest that a few of the council maybe and I work offline in the near future to maybe make some modifications to how this is done so that it perhaps better reflects what I believe the council would like to see done. Is that fair? Is that something that you would agree with? Because again, we've given them directions to this point, and I believe they've done that. Betty, would you agree?
They have done that. They meet with very serious minds. They're very conscientious. They have this last process was a 2-part process that was excellent, and we have a lot of expertise from all of the different arts, and we even have a mural person now. So we are including everyone that would be involved, and I think they did an excellent job.
And I
Mayor,
just think,
I would,
go ahead.
I would just like to add to that I recognize the contributions made by this board, and we appreciate deeply their efforts and the product that's been put forth. But as in all things, nothing it remains perfect. There's always a need for adjustments. So I kind of tend to agree with you that this particular presentation at this point in time is satisfactory, with the understanding that we are able to go back and revisit for the future year as to some appropriate changes that might be deemed appropriate at that time.
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion by Betty to approve this resolution. Any second?
Second.
Second by Ed.
I do have a question. So when are these arts groups going to know the amount they are given, and when will they get a check?
The amounts should be made public immediately, and so I think I would
Gary,
hope-
when will they get a check? You can swallow that answer.
Good timing, huh?
How come he gets to
You
eat?
eating your kale?
I'd take a call.
Oh, okay.
Well, the only problem is, as you know, with the RAP tax, and when you do your budgets, you don't have July and August receipts from last year's that determine how much money we'll have to spend. And so we should be receiving that very shortly. We got July's, and it was down a little from what we anticipated. But last year we didn't get all the revenues we anticipated, and so we had to use some of the carryover from the first few months. If you remember, there was a few months of lag in the fiscal year, and so we had some extra there. I guess long story short is that we can go ahead and do these amounts, but if there's a shortfall when we add up all the RAP tax, we're going to have to take it from
somewhere else.
Somewhere else, and that only place you could take it from somewhere else, you've got a bond payment that you can't decrease, so it would be the other discretionary items you have with paying the electric theater, some of the help that we've agreed to do within the current budget.
So if we have a shortfall, then it's impossible to modify some of those amounts?
Oh,
Is that
because
okay?
they've already got their money.
Right.
Okay, I got you.
And they all need, I guess that's the chicken and the egg, because we really shouldn't, in my opinion, we ought to kind of serve notice that we ought to wait until the end of August in the future to say, don't expect to get the check for that until August.
But I thought we waited, in the beginning, we waited to get money so that we would be on track.
Well, see, the problem is that you're doing it on an annual fiscal year basis, and so your fiscal year starts July 1, goes through June 30, and so if you do it based on what you've recommended, you're anticipating for the next budget year you're going to have that money. What we've done is we've waited until the past year's numbers came in, so we knew we had enough at least from what we did last year to pay for the future, the next year, and that's why we record the sales tax for last year, even though we've closed the books out. We have July and August that we have to take in before we know what that 12 months brought us.
I think we could adjust it for
I don't
next
think
year,
it's
and it won't be a problem.
right. I just
but-
think that there's
Mhm.
anticipation that we've been unclear on when they were going to get the money.
Yep.
And I think they're waiting for that. And so I don't have a problem with you going forward with the amounts that they've recommended, knowing that we may have I don't think we will, but I think that we'll have enough there that we can make all those and not have to cut back on any of the others. But there is some money we can cut back on. It's just we'll have to.
Living within your means is a good thing.
Sure is.
So, did he answer my question?
They can get it tomorrow. We'll submit once these things are done tonight. We'll submit
checks in the mail.
The check is in the mail, and then next year
their
we're-
request for payment. It only takes us 60 days to do make our payment. So
Exactly.
when we get the check request.
So. Right.
I think
so
we'll just-
next year, none of these art groups are going to plan on this money until maybe we should say September 1st. Right. Okay.
Well, I guess I would caution, let's never live or die by expecting to get the money, because you never know.
They're
what can
not. They're
happen.
not.
Okay.
They're not.
That should always be the
No.
caveat when we.
That's
The economy could be different.
Right.
Well, and the commission, when they offer the money, the checks, it's clear that it's not something they should count on
Beautiful.
or plan on. So a lot of factors
Very
go
good.
into it.
I might just indicate that there were 34 applicants for this, and last year there were 19. So, word does get around, and I can tell you from the looks of it, and Betty knows this, and she'll help educate the Arts Commission, and we can all educate the arts organizations that we know of. I don't think the pot is going to get a lot bigger, as we've seen,
It's not going to get as big as the Quest, though.
You're right. It's certainly not. And so, that's a part of the education process. And again, most of these groups are aware of that. It's just,
Well, and
we
I
can't
think
do everything.
I think you need to be aware too that they turned down several
That's right.
flat,
Yeah.
either for non-compliance with the requirements or that they didn't have their nonprofit number. But there were some that I loved this one, that they were encouraged to go out and kind of do what our symphony and our heritage choir and our arts, visual arts groups have done. They have worked very hard to build support and clientele, and so there were some that just came in and wanted the entire amount for a project first time, and they felt like maybe they weren't ready for that yet. So, I mean, a lot of deliberation and thought went into it. But we did want to also set aside money for startup groups, groups that had a lot of potential, and we wanted to give them a little so that they could build upon that and work hard. So.
Good.
Yeah, you have tried and true core of groups that really need to be supported.
Well, and that's what I think we can get to. We can do a little bit of work offline to perhaps craft it just a little bit differently. And we can't fill everyone's needs or make everyone happy, as we all know, but we'll do the best we can with what I believe the intent of this RAP tax program is. So, okay, now I believe we had a motion by Betty and a second by Ed. And any other comments? All in favor, starting with Jimmy, say aye.
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 See?
Which way was it?
That's okay. Ed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate everyone's work on this.
All right, we'll go to staff.
Nope, they all but a couple received some level of funding. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, let's go to staff reports. Item 6A, this is a request for local consent for a Class B beer license for Angelica. Angelicas. Okay.
Angelica's. And
Angelicas.
did they bring us any samples?
Used to be
the
Amita's.
Community garden.
The best restaurant in town.
Yeah, we'll give you this. You can give us a
Chips
enchilada.
and salsa.
Or something like that.
Why do you guys all have salad on your?
You don't
You,
get it.
if you would show up on time, you would know.
Well, thank heavens I didn't show up on time. If it would have been red meat, I would have been mad. But
yeah,
We're all going vegetarian. We committed to that while you were around.
great.
My husband wouldn't eat at this restaurant every
This-
meal, lunch and dinner. I'm
And
not-
it's great that this
not exaggerating.
This license is for the building right across from the old courthouse in our downtown area, which I think is great to encourage more restaurants in our downtown. It meets the requirements of the ordinance, and the staff would recommend approval.
Mayor, I want to confirm that this business is not called Jack's Place, but it is Angelica's Place.
Angelica.
I believe we have the owner here. Yep.
I want to make sure she gets.
Let's hope she cooks and he doesn't.
I'd like to move that we approve this beer license.
Second.
Motion by Betty with the second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
We're
Thank
really
you.
hungry. 10
Sweet.
days?
Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
Good job.
Wonderful. Glad to have you there. Okay, next.
I daresn't have this one go forward right now as far as all the time that she would take, but I'll turn the time to Bobby to make her request.
Yeah.
Hi.
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
I'm just kidding.
First of all, I'm
Just
here to collect
kidding.
a check for Arch to Zion. I heard you just approved everything, so is the check cut yet?
It's in the mail. It's in the mail.
So 6, 8 weeks, 10
Yeah.
weeks,
About.
something like that? Yeah. Okay, my name is Ron Brown. I'm here to represent Arch to Zion. We're actually asking today for some requests for a specific event. We're bringing to town an oil painter event that's sponsored by Oil Painters America. It's the 2017 Western Regional Exhibition. It's being promoted by Arch to Zion, but it's heavily involved with Illume, The Mission, and Authentique galleries that are right in the downtown area. This will bring 100 pieces of art that will be juried in from around the world. A lot of the artwork will be able to be viewed by the general public in the galleries that I just mentioned. That's right adjacent to Ancestor Square. A lot of the artists will be selling paintings at this event. Some of these artists sell their work for $10,000 or more. So one of the great things from this event is that the sales tax for art sold in the city will, of course, go back to our beautiful city. So that's to be noted. We will also, Arch to Zion will be promoting Illume Galleries workshops that will be having international artists speak at the Electric Theater as well. So today we're here to ask for 4 things. We'd like to request a fee waiver of the special events fee. In exchange, we'd like to offer that we would note the City of St. George as a sponsor of this oil painters event. We also have previously been approved 20 signs along Bluff Street to promote the Smithsonian exhibit that's coming around the same time. We'd like to ask that we could use 10 of those 20 already approved signs to promote this Oil Painters of America exhibition. We'd also like to request promotion on the city's website as well as the digital signs in the city.
Mayor, I just want to let you know, too, that the Pioneer Courthouse is an Arts to Zion member, or whatever you call that.
Yep.
Okay, and we do have some art exhibited in there as well, so it's kind of a tie-in
Well,
with
that's
the
good.
city.
Ron, I don't know if you're going to get the mayor there to cut the ribbon or not, but I kind of suspect he's
Yeah,
looking
that's
forward to it.
We were
but-
gonna mention that, but yeah, we'd like the mayor to actually cut the ribbon for the opening ceremony on the evening of November 10th, and we would like to invite any of the city council members to also attend that event.
And
Will you send a
can we,
reminder out before then?
Could we expect that this might be followed up with a watercolor event?
That is actually going to happen during the Smithsonian. It'll be happening on October 14th. We'll have it plenty of. But this particular event, when it comes on the first week, like November 10th is the opening, but for a full week, there'll be activities with these high-end artists all over St. George. And we will have a plein air event. I think it's going to be up in the Pioneer Park above the town. This is a super high-end affair. It's been a while coming. We've been working hard to promote our art and cultural community online for quite a few years. I told Gary Aspen quite a few years ago I was creating an online destination. He said, that's a good plan. So I did.
So one great thing is this will bring 100 artists in from all over the world that will come here, and these are world-renowned oil painters. It will let them experience the location, the beautiful location surrounding St. George, and maybe entice them to come back for other events in the area as well.
Great.
If you'll get us the details, get it to Christina, and she'll get it to the council and and I think we can probably.
I was thinking maybe we could come to a work meeting sometime and tell you the things that are arts design.
Okay. All right, just coordinate with Christina and we can try to work on that. Council, any other questions? You understand what's being requested? It's a waiver of fees, and the waiver of fees is for what? Is it
This,
To me, I don't see a lot of fees
Yeah.
in those galleries. I'd like to make the motion that we accept this proposal.
Second.
including waiving the fees as has been okay.
Exactly the way it's stated here.
Okay, so we have a motion by Betty and a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
thank you so much.
Thank you. 7 p.m. on the 10th of November. Hopefully there aren't any issues with, I think that might be when Veterans Day celebrations happen, but they'll probably be earlier, so. Yep.
Mayor, I just think that maybe for the record that we would say, you know, they're utilizing some of our facilities in the downtown. Plus, you know, we do have a goal to create an arts district downtown so that we don't, you know, we get a lot of fee waiver requests, and
but this is kind of
Karen
us.
kind of has to deal with all the ones we turn down, and they'd all like us to be sponsors. But I think the nexus here obviously is that we're trying to keep these folks downtown and trying to create that ambiance of having that arts district, and they're being more successful as we go. And so I think that's the reason that we can explain maybe why we're granting this versus maybe turning down others that want the same request.
I think it's us. It's our
Yeah, it's
something
part
we're
of
doing,
us.
and we're just on the verge and bringing all of these renowned painters and artists is fabulous. So.
Okay.
Let me clarify two quick things. One, what's the location for the? But for the ribbon cutting, I'm saying. So which one? Illume.
And that, in case you don't know where it's at, it was the Dar Gallery for a while, then it sold the place, but it's right back is where the art museum is on the other side.
Roundabout. Gotcha. Okay, very good. The other thing, let's see, there was.
What was the time?
7.
7.
The actual story is from 6 to 8, but the ribbon cutting and, introduction on the
PM. 7 p.m. Might just mention too, we only have the one city digital billboard on Sunset and Bluff, but you can utilize that and if you work with Mark. Okay? Mortensen. Okay. We're excited about all the things you're doing. Okay, Gary?
Joe was wanted to look out for the staff in the back and move all them up, but I told him they get paid more overtime, so we'll just go ahead with the planning commission report. He was looking out for you guys back there.
On the way home.
On the way. Go ahead.
Item 6C, Planning Commission Report from July 25th. First item, item 1, 2 public hearings to be advertised for August 17th. First one, consider a zone change amendment to Boulder Creek Crossing Commercial Subdivision to develop a Popeyes fast food restaurant on Lot 7 on River Road. Properties plan development commercial. Applicant is New Jack St. George. Item B, consider a zone change from M1 manufacturing to MC manufacturing commercial on approximately 2.6 acres for Marine United. The property is located at 2938 East Panther Way, which is 750 North. Applicant is Smith Payne Investments. Those are the 2 items.
Council, do you have a motion to set those public hearings?
I would make a motion to set the public hearings for items 1A and 1B from the Planning Commission for August 17th.
Second.
A motion by Joe and a quick second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next item on the Planning Commission report is item 2, a hillside permit. Consider request for hillside development permit to allow for the development of a car dealership at 400 North Bluff Street, which is a corner of Donnelly Drive and Bluff Street. That property is zone C3, which is general commercial, and the project is called Red Rock Auto. So this shows the site on the screen, again at Donnelly Drive and Bluff Street. And on the left, top left, shows the zoning at C3. Down below that shows its commercial, general plan. And there are a couple photographs here. I assume most of you are quite familiar with it. It's easy to spot because of the tall brick wall that's been there and forever and is not very sightly. So it's right next to the Three Amigos I'm pointing to down here. And basically, it's a request to remove that and to create a business at street level, considering the new UDOT project. And this shows a photograph on the top before, what it looks like now, and this is a conceptual with a business developed down here, a car dealership. The building would be towards the south end of the property, closest to the Three Amigos.
Dang, we'd missed that wall.
I think the only way we can approve this is if between now and Election Day, we can put up signs along there advertising who to vote for.
I thought this graphic was pretty clever because it shows the existing site, and this, like a huge cube of butter, they're cutting off. They're showing all of this vast amount of cubic yards of earth to be removed. You can see where the toe, the existing toe, is right here. So they'll be creating a new toe down here, and they'll have to terrace it. Basically, the wall ordinance states that the walls can't go over 8 feet, and then the landing has to be at least half that distance. So on the bottom, you would have to have an 8-foot wall. They're showing 11 foot wide here, and then again it would step up. The dimensions are a little off, I think, on this one. I can let the applicant address that, but I'll show you some cross sections. But typically you'd have 8 foot, 4 foot, 8 foot, 4 foot, and they could go wider as they're showing here. So they have some examples that they felt they'd like to do with landscaping, and they're showing those with terraced walls, like the large structural, I call it Geneva block, that you can see here in this one I'm pointing at. And again, some more examples of precast retaining walls are shown here throughout the community. That's what they envision. You're really focusing tonight on the hillside permit itself, although you do get to see the renderings of what they propose to put there.
Looks a lot better.
This is a small detail. I have the large plan in the file, but this has been looked at by the Hillside Board to look at the slopes that are out there and what can and can't be disturbed. And this color here is basically over 40%, which can't be touched. And where I'm pointing right now, you'll see these lines represent those terraces that I showed you on that graphic. That was kind of a sectional view. Grading plans included. That was looked at very closely by the Hillside Board. These are some cross sections of the terraced area. If you look closely, you can see the phantom line here that shows where that huge existing mound of earth is with the wall in front of it. That's again all removed. The existing toe is right here now. The toe would be removed down here, and then you'd have the step terraced walls, and they would have to conform to the wall ordinance. This is another cross-section view that shows the building itself. It would be totally submerged in the earth as it is there now, and you can see by the line, but that would be removed. I don't want to bore you too much, but the Hillside Board spent a lot of time looking at, this is a 10-page report for the wall profiles and rock fall. And they looked and talked about an upper bench and a lower bench, which are depicted here. I thought this was a good section for you to see. This shows the terraced retaining walls as they step. And the Hillside Board spent a lot of time looking at, well, how is drainage conveyed through this? And if you look really closely, you can see that they have the fiber filter fabric, and then at the bottom, the drainage 4-inch diameter perforated pipes that, as it steps down, carries it all away, and it goes to the drainage as part of the new UDOT project. This is just another cross-section illustrating the same thing, but it's behind the building. This is showing the top and bottom benches, and all of this debris would be cleaned up. That was one of the requirements the Hillside Board recommended. They did talk, I think this illustration can help me talk about it. They looked at rock fall, but there were not any large boulders out there. You can see the basalt distinguished rock surface that's here, but they felt if this is cleaned out, that this would be wide enough to catch any fall, and that they'd have a yearly maintenance development agreement, that they'd keep that clean. The reason I belabor that is at one point in the drawings you might have noticed that they were talking about putting a fence up here, but the Hillside felt that probably wouldn't be necessary to do, and it might not be something you want for aesthetics. That pretty much concludes the graphics. I'm just going to jump to the last page of the staff report, the written section, which is page 3, and say that the Hillside Board made an approval, a motion to approve the limited disturbance area to develop an auto sales lot as presented on the contour map, the grading plan, the geotechnical report, the drainage study, and to work with staff during the construction plan process to address any drainage and sediment issues. Then the Planning Commission recommended approval of a hillside permit to approve the limited disturbance area to develop an auto sales lot as presented, again, on the contour map, grading plan, geotechnical report, and drainage study, and to work with staff during construction to address any drainage and sediment issues. So you saw the conceptual layout. You're not really looking at that. You're looking at a hillside permit, and that would address the drainage and the stepped benching, and the board felt that that was not a significant mass of earth that should be protected for future generations to see, that would make a lot of sense to come out, and recommend approval.
Ray,
Hallelujah.
Yeah. I think we like what we see. Just a question in terms of were there soil testing done on this portion? And I'm seeing a nod in the back. In terms of some of the issues we had, farther down Bluff Street with cutting off a toe, not this kind of toe, but toe of the hill. And so any problems there, concerns there?
We met on site 3 times with the Hillside, and there were times when they wanted more detail. They got a detail on the drainage. That was a big issue with them. They got a detail on a geotechnical report, and the report addresses that, and then during construction they'll have to follow that report, and as far as I know the report has sites that shows where the drillings were to get those samples to see what the soil is there.
So we don't have concerns that we have the same kind of potential landslide, if you will, which is really what it was farther down. I know it's a little different soils, but just wanted to make sure that was checked.
That's going to have to be carefully looked at, and the applicant might have some more detail for
Okay.
I would love to know how you're taking those blocks out. Do you have to do it one by one by one by one by one? Seriously?
Yeah, we had people
If
volunteering.
I was Councilman Almquist, I'd be saying, what are you doing with that block
Yeah.
and that soil?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dirt and
That's
blocks?
a lot of block.
Okay. All right.
Mayor, before the applicant comes up, I want to reinforce that issue that the Hillside Board met more than once on this. They really paid a lot of attention to the details on this. And for the public, maybe when they come up, we kind of just reinforce this a little bit. But with the construction going to take place on Bluff, we expect it to begin, beginning of 2018? And so there's going to be a lot of issues there.
End
but-
of this year, first
I-
of next year.
Right, and for the public, people at home listening to this, when you have an approval of a auto sales business like this one, it also entails in this date and time for them to provide for parking for handicap, parking for employees, parking for adequate parking for staff, and that there won't be spread all over the roadways as we may have experienced. So this really encompasses an up-to-date modern approach to satisfying those particular needs. And when the public sees this, sometimes we go by some of the older established businesses in town and we see them lacking in some of these things. And so you wonder why there's not some type of equality. Maybe we can explain a little bit, Ray, as to why some people don't have parking, let's say, for handicap or
I think that's probably not
why they get-
appropriate at this time. But I think we could talk about that at a work meeting or in a future meeting. But I think for this applicant's sake, again, and we're just looking at hillside development right now, so.
Right. So I just want to reaffirm, Mayor, that as we move forward on the ordinance enforcement, that people understand.
Right, and we do, I think we should have more of that discussion. Any other questions for staff? And we could have the applicant come up if you'd like to say a few things on this.
Just to clarify, Michelle has already got after me. Rather than ask for a sign, she said, why didn't I ask for a car? You'd be in jail.
So I'm Matt Metcalf.
Sorry.
We've been here 3 hours. We kind of get
You get us
punched drunk.
punchy, yeah.
And we haven't had dinner, so.
So I'm the architect, and I'm here with the owner, Josh Williams, and
Tell us your name.
Matt Metcalf,
Matt,
with CRSA Architects. The site is compliant with the zoning ordinance, which does include staff parking and ADA parking. And you'll see it again when we come back. So.
Any other questions? I've been through the whole process. Anything that's up here?
Gary, anything?
I was just wondering, I can't remember this one, but when they put that wall up there, is that dirt behind the wall? Has it been imported?
It's fill, yeah.
It's fill.
We're actually not making any new scars.
So there's no cuts.
Isn't that?
All you're doing is taking out the dirt that was hauled in. That was interesting to me.
Not going above what's already been scarred. It will start there.
Yeah.
And the actual scar is below the ground.
It's funny, none of us.
I know, we were all trying to say, how long's that been there?
10 years.
It's been longer than that.
Longer than that.
Prove me wrong.
John, research, prove him wrong. Okay.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yeah, if there are no questions for the applicants.
No, unless you guys want to share something else. Maybe it'll talk us out
What
of it.
about the access,
I see.
that you're talking about using? I know that's going to come later when the plans come in, but is that joint access with the Three Amigos, or are you having your own access?
It probably will be our own access. We're going to petition UDOT, which we've met
But if
with.
you don't get with UDOT's permission, then what happens?
Well, we've met with UDOT.
So they're going to grant you one?
Yeah, and we already have access off of Donley, we believe, there. But then we already
That's a bad
have
one.
permit issued for
Okay.
at least one access. We're going to amend that to a right in, right out with a D-cell lane.
Now it's just a right in.
Right in, right now. We'd like to petition them as our project. They like the idea.
So even if we get that petition, you're still going to have Donnelly access?
We believe so.
Good.
Yeah. So you'll be able to turn off at Donley.
Yeah.
But, and I know the city's avoiding that left-hand turn across those lanes of traffic, so that's.
That's a deal I like.
Yeah.
Huge improvement.
Yeah, that's
Huge.
great.
Was
I
someone
was
starting to
I
make
was
a
just
motion?
hoping to put them out of their misery, but yes, I would love to request. You guys, this is so long. Move to
Second.
approve the request for a hillside development permit to allow for the development of a car dealership at 400 North Bluff Street.
Second.
And I know, okay, go ahead.
We had a motion by Betty, and Jimmy already made a second. Yeah, before, so I got to honor that.
Oh, sorry.
So any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I just have to ask, though, I know what the Lee is, but what's the Donna Lee?
Don Lee?
Oh, Don Garrick.
Garrick.
Should have known. I knew Lee Atkin. Okay. Good.
I learned something new today.
You've been here longer than I. Well, no, you haven't.
No.
He hasn't. All right, Wes, you better hurry.
I am going to go fast.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yep.
Bye.
Okay, item 3A from the Planning Commission report is a request to consider approval of a 13-lot residential subdivision final plat called Aspen Estates Phase 6. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at 3050 South between 3140 East and 3210 East. Zone is R110. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. Just so you can locate yourself on the vicinity map, there is 3000 East right there. It's that property right here, the Seg Miller zone, so it's just to the east of that Seg Miller property.
Questions on this? Ready for a motion for this final plat?
Motion to approve the final plat Aspen Estates Phase 6.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with a second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 3B is a request to consider approval of an 11-lot residential subdivision final plat called Desert Heights Phase 3. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at Desert's Edge Drive and Chimney Rock Drive. Zone is R110. It's part of the Desert Canyons development. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So if you look on your vicinity map, here's the Southern Parkway. Here's Desert Canyons Parkway. It's to the west. It's just right there kind of on the western edge of where they're developing right now.
Okay.
Any questions?
Move to approve the final plat for Desert Heights Phase 3.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Betty with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion?
I just wanted to confirm with Wes that the slope issues and been addressed since we had Mr. Richards here earlier today on issues of slope and the 2-to-1 grades are in place. Nothing beyond that. Nope. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 3C from the Planning Commission report is request to consider approval of a 14-lot residential subdivision final plat called Desert Heights Phase 4. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at Desert's Edge Drive and Barrel Roll Drive. Zone is R110. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So this is just north. Here was the previous plat. This is just north right here in the Desert Canyons development.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jimmy with a second by Betty. Discussion on this motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4A from the Planning Commission report is request to approve a preliminary plat for a one-lot commercial subdivision called Sun River Commons Phase 2. Site is located at northeast corner of Sun River Parkway and Pioneer Road. Property is 1.5 acres. Zoning is PD commercial. Let's see, general plan shows this is commercial. Representative is Scott McCall. So this is where the came through recently on that zone change application or zone amendment to the PD. This is a Terrible Herbst gas station. The only difference you'll see is they are going to provide that provide that easement for that access up to here, as that would be their full access. That would be their full access, and this will continue to just be a right in, right out. So that would be the only change you'd see.
Any questions, council? This preliminary plat for Sun River Commons Phase 2. Ready for a motion.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat Sun River Commons Phase 2.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4B is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 4-lot commercial subdivision called BGG Commercial Subdivision. Site is located on Riverside Drive by the post office. Property is 3.96 acres. The zoning is PD commercial. General plan shows this is commercial. representative is Greg Mathis. So basically, they've created, this building's existing, where is it, right here?
Say that again. This building
is existing right here.
Okay.
This lot right here, lot 1, they're creating. The emphasis, so they're creating a lot 2, lot 3, and a lot 4. This building will obviously have to meet parking and setback standards based on where they're creating their property lines, and we'll verify that. The only other change you'll see on this is they'll have to provide, as these lots don't have frontage on a public street, they'll have to provide that cross access through their developments into these lots right here.
I asked this question before, but I don't remember the answer. Is that that road that goes down the west side, is that a public or private road?
This right here?
Yeah.
It's a private.
Okay.
It's private to the development.
Okay, thank you.
Wes, is there anything triggering a traffic study with this stuff?
No, not yet, as we don't really know what's going in. They're just proposing right here a one-story medical building on this lot 2, and that's kind of generated the need for the plat, and no, so that would not require that at this time.
As you get on Riverside and you're approaching River Road, that's really
Yeah,
a
heavily congested area.
Yeah.
Mayor, I move that we approve the preliminary plat for BGG Commercial.
Aye. Second.
Okay, it's all right. I'm
done.
I almost said hi earlier instead of I. So we have a motion by Betty with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or
I
aye.
already said it.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Jimmy had an early aye. That's it for Planning Commission. I believe there's an item on there that's got to go back to Planning Commission before it comes to us.
Okay, item 6D is the request for acceptance of a map. It's already on display down at the old Pioneer Courthouse from Dr.
Taj
Becker. She's wanting to make that donation, and it's a huge map, but we would have to accept that in order for her to receive a tax donation if she so.
It's a 3D.
3D,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Betty with the second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. It's very nice. If you haven't had a chance to get in the Pioneer Courthouse, go check it out sometime. It's really well done. Kudos to Betty and to Mark and to Ken Sizemore and all those that have been involved, our facility staff. There's been some paint, new carpet, some wonderful art, and these maps are great, including this one. Thank you.
It's just rich with the history of this city.
Yep.
It's
All right. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to bid openings, bid awards.
Back to the beginning.
Back to the beginning of the day. First item is a request for approval of a bid award for the traffic signal construction and installation. This is on Four Master Drive and Five Sisters. We only received one bid, and which is kind of the name of the game nowadays. It's kind of bad. So we would recommend award to Progressive, I believe it was.
Yeah, Progressive Contracting.
Boy, this has been really anxiously awaited by the residents up there, and it's very much appreciated, even though we have a little added cost in the expectations of what it was going to cost. It seems to warrant those costs.
So let's see, the cost for, this is the installation, correct?
Right.
198, 432.18, is that correct?
Yeah, construction and installation.
Yeah, and I believe we already have the equipment. Is that right, Cameron? Yep. Thank goodness. That's great. Any other things you want to say, Brad?
No.
Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for construction and installation of the traffic signals at Four Master and Five Sisters Drive.
Second.
In the amount specified.
Motion by Ed with a second by Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Five Sisters, it's a cute name.
It is a good name.
Next is
I have 5 of them.
You have 5?
Sisters. I have 5 sisters.
So that's your street,
Yeah.
not the Four Masters?
Yeah.
The next item is approval of equipment for our golf courses. These were approved in your current, the current budget. We're buying it off the national bid program. So, anything else you need to say on that, Brent?
No, the national IPA contract is what we're getting it
Okay.
off of.
Move to approve 4 mowers for our lawnmowers for our golf people at 14,000? No, $145,578.24.
These aren't your grandpa's mowers.
No.
Yeah, second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Joe. Any discussion? I think really this is still kind of some catch-up, isn't it, Gary, in a way?
Well, if you count having them all held together by baling wire.
Yeah, duct tape.
And there's probably no trade-in value left.
Yeah.
Except for spare parts, so.
We do appreciate our staff for making things work for so long. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is a little more difficult. We went to bid on the Vernon Worthen Park redesign, as we talked about with the council previously about the budgeted amounts, and we set on a budgeted amount of $1.8 million. That includes the equipment and installation and other things that aren't part of this bid. We received 2 bids. I believe one bid didn't recognize an addendum or something like that, right?
Correct.
But it was the high bid. So the low bid was $1,702,693. The estimate that we needed to come in under budget was $1.393 million. So we've been meeting. The staff has been meeting with the parent low bidder to see what we can do to get that down to budget. And they've been working with them, and we are down at this point. We've eliminated some stuff. We've added things that our park folks can do that were in the bids, and we are down now to $1,388,757.50. Is that correct? That's what I have on here.
Yeah. And
Okay.
the updated bid tabulation is attached in the agenda. It's also posted online on our city website.
What'd you say, Joe?
Do you need me to repeat what I said, or you got it?
Yeah.
I think that when we looked at what we could take out of the bids and what was included in the bids, we basically figured that we would leave the volleyball courts where they're at right now.
Yep.
Okay, because the program we had was going to eliminate one and just have 2, redo the new lighting and do some other change there. We felt like we could probably do that later when we come back in and have to redo the pickleball courts. And so it leaves some parking, but we had to reduce a little bit of parking, but we gained some parking on that street between the park and the Sun Bowl. Okay, and then we had some lights that were going around the trail that's around the park. We felt like since parks are closed after dark that probably wasn't necessary, since that would encourage people to come rather than be a necessity. So we made that change.
And
Plus
there's street lights too around there, aren't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's light.
And there's also lights in the pavilion and around the area where the equipment will be moved over. And also, I think that we're going to work with our own crews to kind of do some of the landscaping in the medians and some of the parking lot medians there and that type of thing. So, did I miss anything, Millie or Jeff, as far as what we eliminated, or Shane? Okay. You know, we recognize the timing issue here, simply for the reason that we're going to be with the marathon, we're going to be with other things, and so maybe the rodeo, yeah. So the idea would be to get started on the trail and do some things that we can do before the marathon time, and then close down for that period where we need it for the marathon, and open back up, and then try to accommodate all those uses that we have there. But we feel okay about we'll be under budget if we don't have any major problems.
Any questions, council?
What rodeo was that, John?
I think it might be the Dixie
Washington's
Roundup.
Rodeo.
Are you ready for a motion? I move to approve the award for bid for the Vernon Worthen Park redesign Phase 1 project at
$1,388,757.50.
Thanks.
And I strongly second that.
Motion by Betty with an assist from Michelle and a second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Thanks,
carries.
Michelle.
I
Just
only
a-
knew that because I asked for his paper to write it down.
Just a shout out to our design folks back there, and they have to put up a lot of BS for me and whatever else, but they've done a good job in they've done a good job in designing. I think you'll be tickled with what we end up with there and how it fits into the park, and it'll be a great benefit for our oldest park, right?
Yeah, I'm
Thank
excited
you
to
so
see it
much.
done.
Yeah, how about a new name?
Well, that's up to you guys.
Central Park.
There you go. The next item is a professional service agreement. This is with Sunrise Engineering for Phase 2 of the Sunset Park. In your current budget, in the park impact fee accounts, there's we're going to be hopefully adding more space to that Sunset Park. We've had the public hearings with the neighbors, and we've taken their input in, and this would be a design agreement and a construction management agreement with Sunrise for that park. Jeff, do you know the design as far as the parking, more parking or anything? So they can park
So
in
a
the
few more.
school, I guess, and the street, I guess. But where it's a neighborhood park, we don't want to.
You don't have as
encourage
many.
a lot of people to come.
Yeah. It's meant for the neighborhood,
That's
not
right,
a community.
That's right.
Park. Any questions on this, council? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve the professional service agreement with Sunrise Engineering in the amount of $67,800.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, I'd like to invite the sleeping chief of police up here to explain why he's going to recommend purchasing these rifles and how he's going to come in under budget. He was sound asleep back there, you notice that?
I offered him some fresh veggies to keep him awake.
Thank you for this opportunity. We need to replace our duty rifles. We've had them for quite some time, and so I am recommending that we purchase these new rifles so we can provide one for each of our officers.
Yeah.
What's that?
What are you doing with the old ones?
Okay, yeah, the old ones, we're going to trade those in. We're going to get some money for those, and then we'll apply that towards the purchase of the new rifles.
That's good.
So
Also,
they're actually under budget when they do
I
that.
was going to say, wasn't it 80 something?
Yeah.
89,000.
Yeah.
So, Chief, someone asked me today, first of all, they wanted to know if they could buy any of the old ones, and I said, probably not. But the second thing they said is, what will the new rifles do that the old ones don't? Can you discuss that a little bit?
Well,
I mean, age is one of the things, but.
Yeah. We want to be able to add suppressors to them
Yeah.
because when the officers are shooting them in training and so forth, they're loud.
Yeah.
And so we want to be able to reduce that, and also it's going to reduce the noise for the community when we're at the range as well, but mostly for the officers. When they have to shoot them and train with them, they're just really loud. We want to reduce that to prevent any hearing problems for our officers.
Those, what do you call those, are removable?
Yeah.
So
Suppressor.
Joe's been shooting a lot of those guns?
You can't hear, that's right.
Plus, they're reduced gas port rifles. I mean, and there's only one manufacturer of those.
Yeah, what he said.
Whoa.
Yeah, there
Good
you
job,
go. You
Jimmy.
read the article.
We
Yeah,
might need to go
yeah.
test
You
them.
read this?
Oh, I have it on good authority from a Sergeant Feltner.
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant Feltner.
Oh,
my
oh,
goodness. I
you're
called
in-
him a sergeant.
you're
He's
in
my
trouble.
neighbor.
You are
You're in
so
trouble.
That there is
trouble.
going to be a test firing sometime in the future,
There absolutely is.
which I'm going to be
Yes.
invited to.
Yes. You're already invited. What do you mean going to be invited?
Yes, awesome.
Is he
I'm
the
glad
only
you
one that
saved
gets
this for
invited?
last.
You're the only one that gets invited?
Well,
You're
I
all
invited myself.
You're all invited.
We're all invited.
Yeah, it's important that you see the equipment that we use, so you'll have a better understanding.
Good job.
How was that, Joe?
Do you need any targets?
You know, the importance of having up-to-date equipment like that is great, but it's also important to protect these officers' hearing. Over the years of firing those weapons, it's not uncommon for those individuals to have hearing loss. And by the time they retire, it's part of the burden that comes with being a police officer.
That's right.
And so it's,
See, and I heard that too, so.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm ready for a motion, and I believe what we'd be saying, the cost is $123,044.26 less a trade-in, right, of $43,500. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, I think
Just
we're
say the net.
actually buying them for $123,000, and we'll deal with the sale, and that will reduce the budgeted
Okay.
amount.
So approve it at the cost?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to approve the purchase of the rifles for the police department in the amount of $123,044.26.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries
I
unanimously.
just want to point out that from experience, I know that's Gary's way of saying the chief's not getting the money back from those guns.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to bring back another item for you to buy, I don't think.
We'll have
But
to
you've
talk
done in the
later,
past.
Chief.
You need bullets, don't you?
Yeah. All right, the next item is approval to purchase a backhoe and loader. This is approved in the current budget in the Leisure Services Department, $87,000, and it's going to be purchased off the state contract.
Anything else, Brett?
Nope, that's everything.
Questions? If not, ready for a motion, council.
these service department is doing such a great job, and what all they're doing, we have to provide them with this type of equipment, and it's my pleasure to be able to make a motion. We approve this in the amount of $87,000.
Second.
I have a motion by Ed with a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Wouldn't you like to hear from our Water Services
Yes.
Director?
Yeah.
And have him try to explain what we're buying in the next item?
Yes, and maybe we could go and have dinner out there while we're doing it.
I would be game because I'm hungry.
I am too.
I was going to say,
This is
I
where-
think I've seen those somewhere.
If you have a half hour, I can go into detail on how this works.
Can you do a slideshow?
Can you do abbreviated?
So the polymer chemical is a chemical that we add to the kind of the finished product of the wastewater. It clumps everything together, I'll say it that way, to make the sludge thicker. And to,
It's what you call getting your together.
Yeah, your stuff together. Yeah.
Listen, let's say it right. Poop in a group.
Yeah, that's right.
How does that satisfy fertilizers, like for community gardens and so forth?
How late is it?
tomatoes and, yeah, other stuff.
Marijuana.
Keep us going, Scott, or it'll get worse.
Aye.
So you're asking about the sludge for the use of fertilizer?
Sure.
You know, we used to offer that with the out at the landfill with the sludge and the
When they mix it up into the green
animals.
waste.
Compost. When we composted it with the sludge, they don't do that anymore. We still truck it out there, and
put it in
it's
the
used on the
face.
face of the landfill, but they don't use it for composting anymore. It was okay. It was okay. It's safe. I'm not sure the community garden group would. It's not 100% organic. There's a lot of metals in it.
Okay, good.
Okay, that's enough of that.
Hey, this is going to be must-see TV.
Oh, that's good.
Any other questions?
No, we don't have any more questions.
We're good. got the picture. Okay, someone make a motion. Motion by Michelle with a second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're close.
Would you like to hear from the Assistant Fire Chief to tell you what you're buying? Okay, Kevin.
You stayed all this time.
He's been sitting here all night.
Good luck, he said.
He's in
He's at Jellystone.
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 That brings back memories.
That joke worked better
Hey,
earlier.
boo boo boo.
No, he's on a family vacation. Well deserved.
Good.
So what are we buying?
Self-contained breathing apparatus, 10 units. We're slowly transitioning to the 1 hour bottles, so they last approximately an hour. And they're all current NFPA certified with up-to-date technology. And this will outfit some of our new rigs that will be arriving shortly.
So what currently is the time frame they last?
20 minutes, 25.
Oh, wow.
That's going to double. It'll basically double the time period, which you're able to stay in the building longer, which is favorable sometimes because many times you get in and you get busy working. Your low air alarm goes off and you got to come back out, and it's not just one person that comes out. You have to come out in a team, so it slows it down. This should create better efficiency with our firefighting.
So will this be the first of that 1 hour time frame?
No, he's already started purchasing them.
Yep.
Yep. It's
Every year we've been trying to purchase a few.
We've been trying to buy cylinders. They have the minute you buy them, the clock starts ticking on them. They believe it's 15 years.
15 years.
Even if you don't even take them out of the box, the clock starts ticking on them when you purchase them.
Yeah, even if you don't use them, they're no good after that period of time.
So he's been very, very frugal with how he's managed the equipment with the department. I believe wholeheartedly he gets the best and maintains it, has the crews maintain it, and we've got equipment that's many, many years old, besides the cylinders that we're still utilizing.
It's a low price to pay for the health firemen that have to go into the building and experience the difficulty of breathing.
And he's 100% in providing the best equipment for the crews, many of which are reserves and volunteers.
Thank you very much. Ready for a motion, council? We have a motion by Ed and a second by Michelle. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries
I
unanimously.
appreciate Brett keeping running herd on all these guys and making sure they're following all the rules and regulations. And you notice that a lot of the stuff we're purchasing on a national basis and using contracts and using, those awards are saving us money by being able to piggyback with other places. And so he's doing a great job as our purchasing agent. So.